Okay, so I hope everybody's well nourished and everybody's got a boost of energy with your favorite food and maybe a cup of coffee. So are we ready to start? Because we'd like to gain some time. So we're going to start with the third session, which is on geoeconomics, power, innovation and growth. I'd like to invite our three members of this session to please come on the stage. Adam Weinstein, Research Fellow, Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft. Adam, please join us on the stage. And our very favorite Munis Bhai, as I call him, Syed Munis Abdullah Alvi, CEO of K Electric. Please give a round of applause to our speakers. Naeem Zimedar Saab, again a very favorite name, especially in the startup circle. Please join us on the stage. Okay, so whereas I've been instructed not to go into your intros in the interest of saving time, in any case, I think it would be futile because everybody already knows Munis Bhai and Naeem. But I would just like to briefly tell the audience about Adam. So he has previously worked for KPMG. His current research focuses on security, trade and rule of law in Afghanistan and Pakistan. So this is a familiar market for him. He's an attorney by training with a concentration in international law and transitional justice. So with this, Adam, I'd like to request you to please take the podium.
I hope it's okay if I use some notes. I've actually been mesmerized by the other speakers who seemingly can go on for 20 minutes with no notes, but I'm not so talented. I'd like to thank everyone who has organized this conference and also to thank Mr. Ahsan, Muhammad Ahsan, for inviting me to speak. And you know, there's that oft-repeated kind of cliche that if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Well, I'm definitely in the right room because I feel that I'm surrounded by so many incredibly talented people, and I'm a bit ill-equipped to give a talk to all of you. But if you'll indulge me, I'll share some of my observations on this topic. So I've gone to many conferences in Pakistan over the years, and the type of conference I typically go to, as you can imagine, is focused on international relations or politics, and the attendance tends to be diplomats, politicians, government officials, academics, think tankers. And those types of conferences are important in their own right. You know, but I think this conference is quite unique because it's different. Here we have innovators, entrepreneurs, and the private sector. And I think it's important for Pakistan to host conferences like that. And what also makes this conference unique versus other conferences I've attended in Pakistan is that Pakistan is the location of the conference, but it's not the main topic. It's been quite refreshing to see some of the more important ideas of our time globally being discussed in Pakistan, but not exclusively in terms of how they impact Pakistan. But Pakistan's taking its place as one of the great nations of the world and hosting fora in which we actually talk about global issues in Pakistan. So I want to commend those who organized this conference for all of that. Now, I was listening to this morning's session, and I found myself in agreement with many of the speakers. But as an American, I couldn't help but think that Pakistanis and Americans share this common trait of being our own worst critics. And I think sometimes thinking that our respective countries are exceptionally dysfunctional. I often hear Pakistanis talk about Pakistan as if it's an exceptionally dysfunctional country, and Americans do the same thing, frankly. Yet the issues that Pakistan faces right now that were talked about extensively in the morning sessions, there are models from around the world that have been demonstrated to be able to address and overcome those issues. So I think that even though incremental change is difficult to see, the issues that Pakistan faces are not insurmountable right now. So with that in mind, I'd like to talk about US-Pakistan relations, and by extension, Pakistan's relations with the world, and this idea of a geoeconomic reset. I first started hearing the term geoeconomic reset being thrown around by Pakistani politicians and former Prime Minister Imran Khan's government. Mueed Yusuf used to talk about it. Former Chief of Army Staff General Bajwa used to talk about it, and the current government uses that phrase as well. And I would hear it over and over and over again. And in my understanding, the idea of a geoeconomic reset is that relations between Pakistan and the United States and Pakistan and the world have been too narrowly focused on security and the war on terror, and that a healthier relationship between the United States and Pakistan and the rest of the world would be broader. It would be about people-to-people ties, it would be about trade, it would be about infrastructure, it would be about investment. Or as Mr. Ahsan said today, foreign policy should be about economic interests, right? And I agree with that. But to place this idea of a geoeconomic reset in context, so it's not just merely a catchphrase, I think we need to consider the last 20 years of US-Pakistan relations and what it really revolved around. I think US-Pakistan relations in the post-9/11 era were really held hostage by short-term outcomes in Afghanistan and in the war on terror. You used to hear this phrase, AFPAC, which I really disagreed with, because with all due respect to Afghans in Afghanistan, which is a great country in its own right, it was absolutely delusional to attach the fate of Pakistan, a country of over 200 million people, to outcomes in a landlocked country of 40 million people. But yet that was how the United States defined its policy towards this region for years. We would talk about AFPAC. And even in that context, when we would talk about development, trade, aid, infrastructure, it was always within the context of the war on terror. We should have more aid so that we can win the war on terror. There should be more investment in infrastructure so that Pakistan could help us win the war on terror, and so forth. It was never thought of in its own right, for the most part. I'm making a generalization here. And I remember in October, this last October, the Biden administration released its new national security strategy, which is published on the internet, and it didn't mention Pakistan once. And I remember speaking to some friends in Pakistan, and they were quite concerned. They said, why isn't Pakistan in this document? Pakistan is a relevant nation. It should be in the national security strategy. And I said to them, you should be happy that Pakistan wasn't listed in the national security strategy. Other countries like Switzerland and France weren't listed in the national security strategy. It's not a good thing necessarily to be in the national security strategy. And if Pakistan had been included in the national security strategy, it wouldn't have been for reasons that Pakistanis would have liked, I guarantee that. So I actually saw the absence of Pakistan from the national security strategy as a clear indication that, hey, we've moved beyond the war on terror. We've moved beyond the war in Afghanistan, even though it's obviously not resolved. But there's an opportunity for a new chapter in US-Pakistan relations that can be broader and isn't going to be held hostage by the war on terror. And when Senator Sher Rahman was speaking about climate change, it got me thinking. What she said, that Pakistan is a postcard of the future, really resonated with me. I was lucky enough to visit Swat this summer, just before the floods, and then I went back to the United States, and I remember seeing videos of the floods, and the Swat River was literally running through the towns of Swat as if the roads had become part of the river. And I remember I thought to myself, climate change is wreaking more havoc and more destruction than any terrorist group could ever dream of. And I don't mean to say that terrorism is not still a threat. The terrible events of Peshawar are proof that it still is a threat. But it pales in comparison to climate change. So I think that Senator Sherry Ahmed's comments were really important about how it's a non-traditional threat and the world doesn't yet understand it, but this is going to be the threat of our century. And I think Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif said the same thing, to leave behind the preoccupations of the last century and focus on the threats of this century and the problems of this century. And so I think the climate change crisis is also a wake-up call for the United States and Pakistan and the world that, look, for too long we've been just focused on threats that are not existential when there are other threats that very much are existential. So Pakistan has factors that I think make it inherently important. Pakistan is a country of over 200 million people. Pakistan, according to a McKinsey report, has a middle class or upper middle class, depending on how you define it, of 19 million people. And that's a middle class that's larger than the upper middle class of Germany, for example. There's a huge young population. The median age in Pakistan is just 23 years old. For perspective, in the United Kingdom, it's 41 years old. Now, that can be a liability for Pakistan and the world, or it can be an asset, depending on what's done today and in the near future. But Pakistan is projected to be the third most populous country by 2050. And it's a strategic location for more than just security. So in that context, I think a geoeconomic reset seems quite evident, or at least the value of one. The trouble with the push for a geoeconomic reset, besides the fact that it's being managed by technocrats, is that it's held hostage to the same kinds of dysfunctions that hold broader relations hostage. There's the shadow of the IMF bailout that's always looming and whether it will happen. There's inflation and currency devaluation. There's a regulatory framework in Pakistan that's not particularly conducive to growth. Ease of doing business is improving, but it's still difficult. Slow reforms, brain drain, and a sense of hopelessness, especially this time around with the IMF crisis, that I think there's a particular sense of hopelessness that if this doesn't come through, what's going to happen? But the crux of these crises in Pakistan are that the country needs to produce more and earn more. And I think we've heard from a lot of folks today who are coming up with innovative ideas and ways for that to happen. This morning, Mr. Qureshi, when he made his remarks, asked, what does Pakistan offer the world? And one thing I'd say is potential. Now, I was speaking to a prominent Pakistani businessman this summer, and I won't say his name, but he said the word potential and Pakistan, or the word potential should be banned when talking about Pakistan. He said that Pakistani diplomats shouldn't be allowed to say the word potential anymore because it doesn't mean anything. What's needed instead is an increased productivity, job creation, and opportunities for real growth. But I do think those opportunities exist in agriculture, which was mentioned this morning, in value-added textiles, not just the textile industry that exists today, but value-added textiles that can earn the country more money. And of course, IT and IT-enabled services. In fiscal year 2022, export earnings topped $2.3 or $2.6 billion, depending on how you calculate it, in the IT and IT-enabled services for Pakistan. And Pakistan startups raised $371 million in 2021 and $374 million in 2022. And that reduction was something that was global, not just for Pakistan. And since the theme of this conference is disruption, I think it's safe to say that Pakistan can take advantage of the disruption that's occurring in the rest of the world and use it to its own advantage if it's shrewd about things. For example, COVID-19 and the normalization of remote work could be a boon for Pakistan's IT sector, as it's simply become more standard to outsource IT services. The trend was already that way, Thank you. The trend was already going in that direction, but I think the COVID-19 epidemic solidified it. Sanctions on countries like Russia, that can be an opportunity for Pakistan, even though I know that the war in Ukraine has very much hurt Pakistan in other ways. But as an example, many of the engineers who major corporations and startups in the United States used as remote engineers and programmers were based in Russia. They can no longer use those individuals. That's an opportunity for Pakistan. My point being that Pakistan can actually take advantage of this very chaotic environment if it takes advantage of opportunities as they arise. Pakistan produces 25,000 IT grads per year. Let's say even if only 5,000 to 10,000 of those grads are of a quality who can seek foreign employment, that's still a significant sum of money coming into Pakistan. Moving away from the model of remittances from the Gulf and towards a model where Pakistanis are being paid inside Pakistan for work they do inside Pakistan and money that they can immediately spend inside Pakistan. And I think Mr. Qureshi's idea that he mentioned this morning about creating a national training program is excellent and probably needed. And of course, the Pakistani state would also have to address tax issues and infrastructure issues such as internet and power for this to truly live up to its full potential. But the point is these opportunities exist. Well, I know that we're running short on time today, and I don't want to ramble on too long. But in short, I think Pakistan is a good long-term bet. I really do believe that, and I'm very aware that I'm saying that in an environment where a lot of Pakistanis are hurting, and the future of the country seems unknowable at this time. But I think in the long term, people sometimes say, look, Pakistan is too big to fail, and that's why the IMF will come through. I disagree with that framing. I think Pakistan is too big not to succeed. But of course, that will require a step away from this kind of grandiose thinking about magical fixes and a look at real, sustainable, incremental change. And many of those ideas have been discussed in far more nuanced detail than I possibly could today. And I think from the outside, from Pakistan's friends, including the United States, what will be required is viewing Pakistan for what it is rather than through a very skewed and narrow security lens. So I look forward to the future of U.S.-Pakistan relations, and I look forward to learning from the rest of you today and tomorrow. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Adam. Without wasting any more time, I'd like to call Syed Munis Abdullah Alvi, CEO, K Electric. He's been with K Electric for a number of years. He's worked as Chief Financial Officer, Company Secretary, and Head of Treasury. He has a consistently strong record for driving turnaround and growth strategies, as we all know. Also, I'd like to ask all of you to please keep tweeting and keep us trending, and also use our hashtags while you're doing so. Munis bhai.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So prepare for disruption. So are you guys prepared? Because there will be no electricity in the next 30 seconds. So no, nothing of that sort is happening. And I also checked before, coming here, the initial disruption at around 11:30 was not caused by us. Trust me, it was some internal problem of the hotel. I checked. So this is us. We don't want to do any disruption, and we want to continue to supply very reliable, of course, cheap power. And at times we are not successful, but this is what our role is. So it would be a slightly change in the way we do business to talk about disruption. While we operate in power sector and as a representative of a private utility which has its own generation, transmission and distribution, I can tell you that there is a lot of disruption in power sector, And if some disruption is not done, probably we will be disrupted completely. So that disruption is very, very important. And I think as a private utility, obviously, the only private utility in the country, we also take this incumbent upon ourselves to ensure that we try to be ahead of the curve and we do what is needed to be done to ensure that we continue to operate as an island of stability in this sea of chaos. You see a lot of issues, but still I would still claim that Karachi, most part of Karachi continues to have uninterrupted power. And of course the rates sometimes are beyond one's capability to pay, particularly in low affluent areas. But again, you have to understand that while we are a monopoly, but we are not in a position to set our own tariff, and obviously we are dependent on government of Pakistan to supply fuel, which again is not, the pricing is not in our control. So if there is any doubt that we enjoy this monopolistic situation, I'm sure the people in this room are all capable of reading our financial statements, so you will see that we are not even getting decent return. Decent is what we are getting, it's much less than decent. So things have to be done to ensure that Pakistan as a country should have energy as an area where the country should not suffer. And when we see the circular debt of power sector, which probably is close to 3 trillion rupees, in excluding the circular debt of the gas sector, which probably again is around 600 billion PKRs. So this energy, which is from petroleum to power, probably is virtually half of Pakistan's budget. If we are talking about 8 trillion, 3.6 trillion is almost 45% of the total budget. So it's a huge number, and we have to do something to stop this bleed. And what we have seen historically is liberalization, where we are seeing regulations coming up. We are seeing the regulator, I think what work has been done in the last 2-3 years, and I would give this credit to the new chairman NEPRA, Tawseef Farooqi Saab, who I think has taken this challenge to come up with some regulations. They might not be the best, but at least we have some regulations from where we can take this further. And I think probably the biggest relief to energy sector in Pakistan would be liberalization. And please make no mistake in understanding that KE itself is not someone who is trying to defend the exclusivity. There are, apart from KE, there are 9 discos in Pakistan, and every distribution company's exclusivity has ended, and ours is going to end in June 2023 this year. And I want to announce here that we have filed a tariff with the regulator in December 2022, and we have filed for a non-exclusive distribution license. It is definitely not our desire to have exclusivity, but at the same time, we want some kind of a level playing field. We understand that once it is over, there will be entrants who will be supplying electricity business to business, and it will definitely be a bit complicated for KE, because we are a 110-year-old company. We still treat the user of electricity as consumer. We are still struggling to change from consumer to customer, and I think that is something which is going to improve the service, improve the pricing, ability to fund, ability to collect, when you have that customer centricity, which is again core of our values at K Electric. But I'm sure people will enter into this market, and we are going to be competing with them. These guys who will enter, they will enter with a very, I would say, very focused business plan, and they will be obviously ahead of the curve. We can't claim that we would be close to them, because we would inadvertently be supplying to the rest of Karachi, which has almost 40% Kachi Abadi, which is the undocumented population. And again, at the same time, when we invite these organizations to come and have benefit from the exclusivity, we want some kind of an Al-Khadim Foundation maybe to supply to areas where people are not in a position to pay, areas like, for example, Leari, Baba Bit Island, Ibrahim Haidari, and there are many parts of Karachi where it is extremely difficult to go and collect, and the people, unfortunately, they don't have the ability to pay. And again, because the tariff is set by the government of Pakistan, KE is not in a position to sell at a lower rate. But when someone will go in these areas and they have some kind of funding available which they can use to provide cheap electricity to people who cannot pay, then probably this definitely will help us a lot, and of course the people in that area, and overall the economy as a whole. This, again, the important thing which probably is going to help a lot of us, not only K Electric, people and the government, if this overall subsidy structure is to circumvent to an extent that people who are not in a position to pay should be given a targeted subsidy. And again, we have a lot of data. I think the disruption requires those regulations to come into place whereby people's NICs are to be registered, their addresses to be same in terms of the bills are being sent to. We have a fantastic NADRA database in terms of who can have, who has what kind of income, bank accounts, SIM cards. So why not electricity? Why not the meters in the name of those individuals who should get a direct subsidy from the government of Pakistan? I know it's difficult to understand, but let me tell you, when we saw this CNIC linked to a bank account, and when we saw everyone has to be fingerprinted when they want a bank account to be opened, the SIM cards, it always felt very difficult. But again, probably it was more of a FATF requirement of the security concerns the country had at that point in time. It was implemented. I think that would really help the government to a larger extent, and we can have this these schemes, whether it is Benazir income support or ASAS program, whatever can be used to provide a direct subsidy. And again, it would be difficult for us. Let me tell you, it will be difficult for us because the people will be billed at 100% and the subsidy is going to be paid to them. But again, if you want to fix it, you have to do these disruptive changes. Otherwise, we will continue to bleed, and we will not be in a position to get out of this circular debt and the expensive power and everything. I think this is the most important part, and we are looking forward towards the regulation so that when we enter into that arena, we will be in a position to also compete with whoever enters in our area. The other thing, again, as SK Electric, we have talked about it, that they have to follow KE model, although we are still criticized in certain cases, but I would still claim that K Electric has not contributed anything towards the circular debt. And it is again in the news today that KE has to pay 490 billion rupees to NTDC, and the circular debt management plan probably requires that money to be paid, and something has been committed to IMF probably, but 490 billion has 140 billion of markup and 350 billion rupees of principal payment. We acknowledge that. We also has a claim of, as of December, 431 billion rupees. No one talks about that number. If we are paid, we will definitely pay. So if we are not paid, the expectation that KE will pay is wrong. And I think again, I will reiterate, if we have to get out of this circular debt and this government's ability to supply power and government's ability to bill and collect, if you privatize and you tell all those privatized entities that this is your target, you have to do this, this is the power supply which is available, it will be available for 4 or 5 years, and later on you have to come up with your own power projects, you have to go and collect. We have reported first quarter's financial statement. The second quarter will be available very soon. We have lost 16 billion rupees almost in the first quarter. If we would have been a disco, a government of Pakistan disco, this would go straight to the circular debt. But because we are private utility, we are funding it. The tariff is not going to increase, or taxpayer money will not be used to finance the 16 billion loss that we have occurred. It is going to be from our own shareholders, from our own borrowing, and the borrowing cost is also, it does not go into the tariff in the same manner it goes into the other discourse. And again, it is funded in the circular debt, and the taxpayer money is used. So I would insist that if the government of Pakistan, they have to, if they want to go away with this, they need to privatize. There is no other option. We can talk about skill development, improvement of governance, but it's all, I would say it's wrong way to go, probably, will not be able to be there. Other thing which again we are, I think we as a country have to ensure that we move our generation to local fuel. Obviously, we understand that there is constraint in terms of that supply, but this is something which we have to move to. We are not in a position to finance very expensive imported fuel power projects. KE is working on it, and inshallah we will bend backwards to ensure that we have that power available. We are talking about, for Karachi, we are talking about having at least 30% renewables by 2030. We have signed an agreement with China Three Gorges, an MOU rather. It will be converted into an agreement very soon, inshallah. And by virtue of that, we'll have hydel supply being available to K Electric through wheeling. And China Three Gorges, I'm sure most of you would know, it has probably the world's largest dam, the China Three Gorges Dam, which produces almost 23,000 megawatts, which we struggle to produce as a country in summer. So this is the kind of company who has, alhamdulillah, has partnered with K Electric, and we are working, and inshallah, very soon we will announce concrete projects to ensure that, you imagine hydel, 700 and 800 megawatt of hydel being supplied to K Electric through wheeling would be some kind of a disruption. And that kind of model, if used by other distribution companies who are in private sector, probably would help us resolve most of the issues that we have. I still have 1 minute, so the last thing I would say that if you need to do these things, you need to have the will to do it, and I expect that the government is understanding all these issues, or otherwise we will. I want to end it with the Ghalib Sher कि हमने माना कि तगाफुल ना करोगे लेकिन खाक हो जाएंगे हम तुमको खबर होने तक. And for the foreign delegates, it means that we know that you will not ignore us, but we'll be dead and buried when it reaches you. So I hope that whatever efforts are being made by Asfar through this conference, it's a fantastic step, and these voices will be heard, and I'm sure the people who are there would understand these issues, and very soon, inshallah, we'll see some movement towards it. This increase in tariff is not the solution. It is a band-aid solution. When you increase tariff from the bottom, it again, the recovery losses increases, and then there is again a gap. So of course we have to do that, because we cannot have the best case solution today. But I hope, inshallah, soon we'll be in a position to provide cheaper power through cheaper sources, and we need the government of Pakistan to help us, because indigenous fuel probably requires a lot of support from the provincial and the federal government. We are talking to them, and we are talking to all the stakeholders who are involved, and inshallah, very soon we will show you. 2 years ago, Khurram always reminds me, while sitting here, I committed that inshallah we'll add 900 megawatts of power within one unit next year, and the other the year after next. So last year we added the first 450 megawatt, and inshallah, as I speak, we have, alhamdulillah, the entire 900 available, which is going to be put to use to the maximum before the summer of 2023. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Monis Bhai. So this isn't the first time that Monis Bhai has gotten a bigger round of applause for his shairi than for his speech. And this was deja vu for me because I think this happened in the previous Future Summit as well. So thank you very much, Monis Bhai. So now our last speaker for the third session is Naeem Zimedar, one of my personal favorites. He's the founder of NEEM and former Minister of State. So since you've already stood up, so that takes care of the few things that I was going to say. Please.
Assalamu alaikum. So, we've heard about all the challenges that Pakistan is going through, right? Where, the economic challenge, the climate change challenge, the education challenge, where half the kids are not going to school. These are tremendous challenges, and many, many more, right? The education, healthcare, every area we are challenged. But as an entrepreneur and as an innovator, these challenges are opportunities. That's why I said America is a land of opportunity. I think Pakistan is a land of opportunity. Really, these challenges are massive opportunities. And that's why I love that the reason why I wanted to speak up today was when you talk about disrupting something, right? Disrupt in Silicon Valley, when you use the term disruptive innovation, it means making something 10 times cheaper and 10 times better, right? And that's what's been happening. We are able to develop things which can transform every industry, and it's happening, and it can happen in Pakistan, and it will happen in Pakistan. The revolution has started, and we need to ride this, right? So, and I'll give you examples. When but for that to happen, right? There are a couple of things that need to be enabled. One is that we really need to change our mindset, right? We need to come into a space of taking responsibility for everything. When you don't take responsibility, what happens? You blame about everything, right? Say, oh, this is wrong. But when you take responsibility, you own it. We have to start owning our country, owning our challenges, right? And number two is believing in ourselves. Because we've lost belief in ourselves. Entrepreneurs are people who have belief in themselves. We need to become an entrepreneurial nation. The heroes of a country need to be entrepreneurs and innovators. That's not been the case. This is one of the major shifts that needs to happen. We live in disruptive times globally, right? The world is going to change around us dramatically. There's no two ways about it. Every industry, but we have the opportunity to use it to our benefit, right? To be able to be the great equalizer. There was a report recently taken out by JP Morgan, right? Which said that one of the big phenomena in the world that will happen is something called equalization. Because of the spread of information, there will be a certain equalization in the world, and we need to be able to ride it. See, we've done, and from my experience, by the way, there's one gentleman sitting here who I respect highly. His name is Air Chief Sohail Aman, and just the example and he's inspired me a lot, right? When we had the attack on the Karachi Air Force Base, and 3 of us SAB AVACs were destroyed or severely damaged, the bill to fix those was per plane about $240 million, something like that, right? And we didn't have the money to do it, and it was a problem. They went ahead and made the impossible possible. They did it themselves, and they are now the only other country in the world, other than I think Sweden, which has certified ability to do so. This is incredible, right? This is not, we made the nuclear bomb. We did something pretty extraordinary, right? We've done similar things. We make a fighter jet, but we don't believe in ourselves, and we don't channel that energy towards solving our problems, right? Whether it's, and every one of those problems can be solved. I saw that with the telecom revolution, right? When I came, I used to be a venture capitalist in Silicon Valley, and I came back to Pakistan to teach meditation, which I truly believe, meditation and self-realization, because I truly believe that the real revolution is inner revolution, right? A revolution where we empower ourselves, because we don't realize how powerful we are as human beings, right? And once we do realize that, and that's what meditation or the process of self-realization does, makes you realize that, wow, not only am I powerful, but that's the real revolution we need to enable, right? It used to be an ethos, and again, entrepreneurs have that. Entrepreneurs truly bring a belief into the play. So When I came back, I came to teach meditation. I started off as a teacher, but I couldn't make a living doing it, so I went back to work as a chief strategy officer for Jazz. And at that time, there were 1 million subscribers in Pakistan, right? Total, all operators. And in 5 years' time, right, there were many things that came together to make that happen. We had 100 million users. It became, everyone had, sorry about that. Everyone got access. So that this same revolution, I truly believe, for example, the revolution that I'm working on right now is in terms of financial enablement, right? What we call financial wellness of Pakistanis. I truly believe that's a revolution in the making now. And so on my journey, about 3 years ago, I decided I wanted to be an entrepreneur again, and I wanted to build a company that would be a game changer. So we started building a company called Neem. The neem tree is a very South Asian phenomena. Everything about it is good, right? From the leaves, the bark, the roots, the shade. And we said, let's build a company that enables goodness. So we said, our focus is to enable the financial wellness of the underbanked. And the vast majority of Pakistan is underbanked, right? 80% of the people do not have access to financial services, and only 5% of the population has access to credit. It's ridiculous, right? You need finances to be able to enable your life in a meaningful way. So we said, what would be the approach that would work? And we took a differentiated approach. It's something called embedded finance. Embedded finance means we can make any non-financial digital platform or value chain a financial delivery platform, meaning by capturing insights of that value chain, understanding what's going on in that value chain, we're able to enable financial services, whether it's payment, through payments and the information and the insights, we can enable credit, insurance, savings, to actually enable the financial wellness towards a journey of hope for these individuals. And we've launched our service. We've already started working with many, and our platform is, again, B to B2C. We say we can enable others. So we're really behind the scenes. And the experiences that we're getting, we're working with a company called OneLoad, which has thousands, and Asif Peer is there. It's one of the companies invested by Systems. And they've got 70,000 retailers, right? They work with. They have lots of data on those retailers because they transact with them. And with that data, and through their value channel, we're able to finance those retailers, right? At a very low cost. Because in the end, if the cost of capital is very, very high, which it is in the informal economy, right? Jo sood wale hote, by the way, informal lending in Pakistan is very big business, very, very big business. They charge over 100% at times, right? And a lot of these, by the way, these digital apps also do charge like 200%, by the way, and on an annualized basis. But that's because they're playing with a very high level of risk, and to mitigate that, because we have inside of that value chain, inside of the customer and his need, we're able to provide financial services at a very affordable price, a price that the person can actually build on, make a profit on, grow on, then buy insurance, have savings as well. We are looking at the lifetime value of the customer. And we're doing this with many other value chains. With the other company we work with, which is a revolutionary company, is called Bakhabar Kisan. We talked about agri-productivity in Pakistan, right? It's half, Pakistan Punjab productivity is half that of the Indian Punjab. Now, this company, Bakhabar Kisan, started about 5 years ago. It started off with basic information services, and now we have incredible insight into 2 million farms. We know the soil condition, we have satellite imagery, we have data about the crops, right? And 16 million people in the farm economy use the service. We charge ₹1 a day, right? At large. But what's coming and evolving out of that, we're able to provide meaningful insight to the farmer to be able to improve his productivity and his incomes, right? And it's starting to happen. We've run closed loop experiments where we've seen incomes go up by 60%. It started off with information advisory, but one of the things they've done is we built a whole network of weather stations. There are 600 microclimates in Pakistan. And we built our own network of weather stations, which allows us to get hyper-localized weather information. Because without that information, farmers can't plan can't predict and strategize. And with soil data on top, etc., we're able to provide agri-advisory at which is potentially 10 times better than what they would get from a local government extension service officer. And at not only 10, 100 the cost. Now we are also moving towards fulfillment, getting them the right seeds, fertilizers, and pesticides, right? Then also the closed loop part, the buying side, which fits into it, is starting to happen. These value chains are coming together. Agricultural income can quadruple over the next decade or so, easily, right? And I'm telling you also from my personal experience, from part of the learning is that one of my son is involved in farming, and most of the land is given out on Mustashiri, right? They get 55,000 rupees an acre. So we ran up, using some of this information that Baka Pakistan had, to do garlic farming. It turns out we're making about 8 lakh rupees an acre. So incomes can not only 10 times, right? But amazing things are possible, right? And it's starting to happen. And a lot of the people who are not very literate are using video. We have 100,000 videos of how to do honey farming, and most of them are developed by others, right? The other people who are working on it in their local languages, Punjabi, Saraiki, Hindko, and it's a revolution in the making. It's very early days, but I truly believe that if we have to double down on this, right? And to double down, one of the areas where I feel one of the major interventions is required is a focus on entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurs need to become the heroes of our country, right? We need to provide funding. The government provides absolutely very minimal funding. And last couple of years, we started seeing some international money coming in, but it's still a minute amount of what's required. India, relative to us, is doing about 100 times per capita than Pakistan. That's why they're progressing so quickly. So venture capital, entrepreneurship, and this whole space of innovation needs to be nourished. It needs to become a priority number one for our nation. That is the real revolution. And the second one is really a revolution in terms of us taking responsibility for our country, right? And owning it, and owning the challenges that we are faced with. None of these challenges are too big, like what Sohail Aman Saab did, right? With an incredible challenge, impossible challenge. We are incredibly powerful, and we need to be able to reinforce this as a society, and you as individuals. So I'll give you a small micro. Within my company, right? So one of the first things, by the way, I started my career as an auditor for KPMG in San Francisco. And my first client was Southern Pacific Railroad Company. Boring stuff, right? Second client was Apple. At that time, this is 31 years ago, right? Apple was in trouble, not doing so well. But when you walked in, the energy and ownership people had was what differentiated everything. People think the digital revolution is about zeros and ones. No, it's a different way of doing business. It's a different empowerment that allows. The digital revolution, the innovation revolution will empower this nation to a whole different height. What is possible in the next 20 or 30 years is incredible. We can become a great nation, a nation of abundance and prosperity for all. It's just waiting for us, and all of us need to take ownership for it. In our micro worlds, we are leaders. Take responsibilities. Get out of this negativity. Inspire your team. Make them believe in themselves, have a vision, and follow through. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Naeem Saab, for that highly inspiring talk. And what I took out of it was that entrepreneurship needs to be fostered. We have people like William who are already doing their bit, bringing in international investment into Pakistan. But as you rightly said, it's just a drop in the ocean, and all of us need to do our part and do a lot more. So we've come to the end of the third session, and now we come to the favorite part, which is presentation of souvenirs. I'd like to request Sir Sohail Aman, your very favorite, former Chief of Air Staff, Pakistan Air Force, and Chief Executive Strategic Engagements, Nutshell Group. I'd also like to request Saqib Ahmed, Country Managing Director, SAP, Pakistan. Sir Sohail, I'd request you to please present the book to Adam Weinstein. Adam. Adam, I hope you enjoy this reading. It's the journey of the mighty river Indus through the 3,000 kilometers that it travels across Pakistan. Saqib, if you could please do the honors of presenting the book to Munis Bhai. No claps. I think we should plant people who can clap on my cue. And then, Saqib, also please if you present the souvenir to Naeem Zimedar. Now we can all come together for a group photo, and I'll also join this one.
Hello again, and we move into session number 4, a very, very exciting panel discussion coming up. Disruptive innovation seizes new markets by utilizing new technologies and business models. Disruptive innovation creates new items, markets, and qualities to overthrow the existing ones. This word new has been coming in conversation quite frequently, and as an honorable speaker mentioned, that new now is the way to work with. It's no longer new normal, it's new now, because it's continuously evolving, and perfection is no longer a destination. Perfection is something that we just achieve, and then we move on for more perfection. How and why that happens is the theme of our next conversation. I'll request the panelists to come up on stage as we announce their profiles. Muhammad Tariq Malik, SI Chairman, NADRA, previously worked as Chief Technical Advisor for the United Nations Program UNDP. He has served with the World Bank as a Senior Technical Consultant, was part of the core team that initiated Global ID for Development program, as well as authored the framework of international standards for digital identity. Sayyid Muhammad Al-Hibsi, advisor in AI, Ministry of Human Resources and Emiratization, UAE. Saeed is an advisor in AI and senior project manager for the UAE Ministry of Human Resources and Emiratization. A serial entrepreneur, Saeed is also a co-founder of startup Lex, a co-founder in Casa Mobili, and an owner of VETC International. He has participated in the UAE Government Leaders Program and received diplomas in strategic leadership from Said Business School, University of Oxford. As I announce the profiles, speakers, if you kindly hear, please join us on stage. Asif Peer, Chief Executive Officer, Systems Limited, currently holding the titles of Chief Executive Officer, Managing Director, and member of the Board of Systems Limited and CEO for TechVista Systems in Dubai. His top priority is to create more job opportunities in Pakistan, and I think that's also his passion because I've often heard him speak about this. Mr. Peer is leading Systems Limited into a new era of growth in both IT and BPO sectors, solidifying its position as a leading technology solution provider. Dr. Shahid Mahmood, Chairman and CEO, Interactive Group of Companies. Under his visionary leadership, his organization has pioneered the development of Pakistan's telecommunications, wireless IT, and media infrastructure. He has served on several federal committees of the Government of Pakistan, helping formulate and implement national telecom and IT policy. Mr. Mahmood is an Eisenhower Fellow as well as co-chair and fellow member of various think tanks in the country. Amara Masood, Chief Executive Officer, NDC Tech. Amara has had a diverse career in IT consulting and entrepreneurship across 3 continents. She has over 28 years of experience in IT strategy, governance, consulting, and transformations of core and digital solutions for clients in the banking and finance, telecom, and high-tech sectors. She also holds senior positions in the industry, including board member at Central Depository Company, industry advisory board member at Habib University, and independent director at Data Check Private Limited. Mujib Zahoor, Managing Director, S&P Global. Mujib leads S&P Global operations in Pakistan, the Philippines, and Argentina, looking after organizational strategy at the 3 sites in close collaboration with leaders in data, content, news and research, technology, client support, sales, and account management, among other functions. Supporting his organization's commitment to diversity and inclusion, Mujib serves on the executive committee of the US-Pakistan Women Council, which is a US State Department initiative aimed at empowering women in the workplace and developing entrepreneurs. To moderate the session, we invite Saqib Ahmed, Country Managing Director, SAP Pakistan, a strong patriot and a visionary with 20 plus years of experience in delivering innovation and driving business value for customers in the information technology and telecommunications industry in the region. Before joining SAP, Saqib held senior level positions at tech companies including Oracle, Comtel, Nokia Siemens Networks, and Siemens AG. We welcome our panelists and our moderator for the session and look forward to hearing from them on the essence of digital transformation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that the topic itself speaks about digital transformation. Transformation, what we all go through at this very point of time. And when we talk about digital transformation, we are talking about a change. We are talking about best practices. We are talking about adaptability. We are talking about how we have to make sure and how we have to go and get ready for the change that is ready for us with all the experiences that we have. We will be talking about in this panel about how the organization will digitally transform, but I will start it with one example from my home. Just last week, we had a big celebration at home because my father, who is 85 years old, who always told me, don't use the credit card, there is always something in it. They will get something, this money out from you. Don't use the credit cards. This was his mindset always. He then came to me, and when I did my first online shopping, he said to me, you know, you will not get the quality. The theme is about getting and feel the thing, and then you will buy it. When you can never get the quality if you will do that online shopping over there, it will never come to that quality. And the celebration was about that my father did his, at the age of 85, through a MasterCard, first online shopping, which came at home, and we all celebrated that one. That's the digital transformation on a personal level that we are looking at today. I will start the discussion first now from our online panel, Janab Tariq Sahab, who's there and whose whole experience is about in the public sector. So my first question towards you is, you have been leading an organization of Nadra, and which has its own parameter dimension and its own value in this Pakistan tech ecosystem. What were the challenges that you faced at the start, and how you digitally transformed this thing, and what are the global impacts that you see today that this company can have for the growth of Pakistan also? So your voice is not there. Can we get the voice, please? I think the tech team need to digitally transform itself also. So we don't have the voice still, so maybe I come back to you and in the meantime, We continue the questions on
मैसेज
the
कर दो
others.
कि आप
Yes, we can hear you, sir, now.
oh, can you hear?
Yes, we can.
Am I audible? Okay, thank you very much. So, very good question. What are the biggest challenges in digital transformation in public sector of Pakistan? I think the biggest challenge in government sector is that we are very much comfortable with the bureaucratic labyrinth that we have in all the ministries, department, agencies. And so, the digital transformation happens with two strategies. One is the digitization, archiving the old record in a digital form. And the other one is digitalization, is automation of the processes. So automation of the processes is where we have problem because we are too comfortable with, this bureaucratic labyrinth, if you will, because its impact creates the ripple effect. Why? Because digitalization actually cuts the middleman, cuts the intermediary, cuts the rent seeker in the system. So you always get a blowback and they say कि ये काम क्यों नहीं हो सकता? Why? And everybody tells us why this project cannot happen. So that is one thing. The second thing is that we have a siloed decision making. We have delayed approvals and decisions from ministries take a lot of time. We have legacy system, and those legacy system, if they work well, and then we get too comfortable. In technology, you have to consistently improve yourself. So the system that I developed in 2012, when I came back in 2021, everybody was comfortable with those systems. Even technology was not upgraded. So I had to start from 2010 and first upgrade the technology. Then we have this risk-averse organizational culture. People do not embrace change positively, or positive change. They don't, take it positively, and that is a main problem. We see everything from the lens of security. So if you see everything from the lens of security, you have already become so insecure with the change, and that has been a consistent problem. And you don't then you fear from experimentation, from innovation, from creative thinking, and that creates a roadblock. And we have to dismantle these barriers. We have been successful in dismantling these barriers and coming up with innovative products since a year. And we have done that. When I came in, I came from United Nations, where I was advising 133 countries on member states on digital transformation. So I created my own cheat sheet that these 43 interventions I have to do for digital transformation. And I'm happy that in 1.5 years, we have done 33 of them, and we have upgraded our portfolio to 70 some projects. So, slowly but surely we are dismantling these barriers, and we are creating small success stories with these interventions, which have already, created some digital dividends for the country.
Thank you very much, sir. And as you just mentioned, breaking the silos and breaking it with the change management, that is the key for any public sector organizations to go online, and the private sector both. Amara, starting from your side, today we are all part of a digital society. We have become digital. Everything that we are doing are one way or another connected to some digitization in our personal and professional lives. What are the challenges that are being faced in this digital society? Because people are worried that their jobs will go away. People are worried overall that this cybersecurity will take away all the data that is there. Their data is on risk. What are these challenges, and how to counter these challenges?
Yes, thank you for asking this question. I think just to set the context, there are three things in digital transformation which are important. One is the stakeholders, and when we talk about the stakeholders, it is obviously the individuals who are going to use or be the consumers of digitization, and the people who will actually build on the digital rails. Plus there are the government agencies, plus there are the enterprises, and the corporations which are part of this stakeholders. On the other hand, you also have the pillars and the enablers. So when we talk about the pillars, one of the important pillars is the digital skills, which is what you wanted me to talk about. And but other than the digital skills, you also have the content, and you also have the data, which is very important as part of the pillars. And in terms of the enablers, it is very important that all of this comes together in terms of the frameworks, in terms of the policies that are provided by different institutions, and the public and private sector cooperation, which will drive this. So in terms of when we talk about the digital skills, has to be collaboration between not only the educational institutions, but the government, because we have to look at both the demand and the supply side of creating the digital skills. So not only do we need to identify how we would create the supply side, but also on the demand side, what are some of the needs which are required. So we have to make sure that whatever we are teaching in the educational institutions or in the training houses is very much aligned with what the needs and the demand of the market is. And if we take the example of one of the countries which I visited lately, which is Saudi Arabia, and their vision of digital transformation of 2030, this is exactly what they have been doing. They have looked at it very holistically and have looked at not only just one element of it, but also all of the important elements which are involved, and collaboratively working on putting all of this together. So this is my view on the digital skills.
No, I think absolutely right. Digital skills is the direction that we need to take our, and the other example that you mentioned out over there in terms of is that the digital transformation is not about only technology, because every culture has its own dynamics. And the digital transformation of IT technology should be mapped up with the cultural part of that one, and then adopted accordingly as well. Because you can't just take the technology and just get it implemented. So I think both these angles are very important for the digital society over there. Saeed, my friend from UAE, let me tell you, my first flight to UAE was back in '98 when there was this old airport. And my last flight to UAE was 1 month back, where from the point that I landed at the airport till the point I went to the taxi, there was no human intervention anymore. From the level of getting the passport, getting to the everything was digitally transformed there. And I think that's a huge journey if I see over the period of last 20 years what your country has done. What are the key takeaways that Pakistan should learn from the digital transformation journey that you guys have implemented in the UAE?
Thank you. And first of all, I want to thank the Future Summit to having me here and giving me this opportunity to share our stories and success stories back to UAE. Starting with your point, UAE government started their adoption of the technologies since 2000, exactly. They have their strategy to be an e-government, and they spent almost 10 years to transfer all their applications to be available in the online, and they can finish any of the consumer, they can do their work in the online system. Starting from 2011, 2012, 2013, they started with something called the smart government, where they want the whole government to be in the application, and most of your services and government services can be done in the application. But in the same time, in 2013, all that past 13 years, the government only thinking how to be developed and how to be aligned with all over or internationally as a system. In that area, Then they put a strategy how we can be a step ahead as a technology. The Prime Minister Office, I remember, they initiate 5 programs. The first program called Innovation Future Leadership. The second program called the Future Leadership. And the third one was the AI program. The fourth one was the Fourth Industrial Revolution program. And the fifth one was the Executive Leadership program. You will surprisingly know the all 4 targeted program was only for the youth. So when I joined, I remember I joined to the Ministry of Labor, and now it is Ministry of Human Resource. In 2011, they told us about this program. They said there is a test and there is an exam to be attend this to be part of any of this program. And the fifth one, the executive, only for the leadership who's working now as a managerial levels and above. So they remain 5 years only focusing in the youth. I remember I finished my innovation program in 1.5 years. We visit all over the world to see the best practice. We visit Google, Facebook, Microsoft, I think also Airbus, Boeing. We have been taking a lot of training in Stanford and the Said Business School in London. So after 1.5 years, they put us in the Fourth Industrial Revolution program. After this Fourth Industrial Revolution program, 1 year, then they put us in the AI program. We graduate from Oxford. From that part, I really realized that time the government focusing on us to build the future. They appoint one of me as an advisor in the government for the advanced technologies. We appoint one of our colleagues to be the Minister of AI, the first Minister of AI all over the world. They put one of our colleagues to the Minister of the Youth. Most of our colleagues now, they are in the stage either to be an advisor for the government or as a minister. What I want to show, and most element what we are focusing here to drive the future, what we are seeing that the digital transfer, we are not seeing as something, an option to do it. We are seeing as a mandatory, as a government, as a country to adopt it to be ahead and to be international leadership and to create a new industrial place, especially in UAE. We announced about AI strategic program. We are announced about the blockchain strategic also. Dubai itself, they announced to be 2021 full-powered blockchain internationally. They are ahead also as a city in UAE in these technologies. They have more than 1,000 companies established as a blockchain company.
I think you very rightfully pointed out, and I think if you hear to the story that is being mentioned, they are talking about a complete journey. They are talking about 5 different departments they set up. They talked about how to focus on the youth. They talk about how they have to take into all the different phases, getting the experience of every phase, and get this product out at the end of the day and serve the people. I think that's a strategy that has been utilized, and I think that also shows how it is end-to-end complete over there as well. Thank you very much for that comment. Asif, coming to you, and Systems and Asif has been the pride for Pakistan by all means, by representing this company and clearly mentioning how this can be one of our key companies outside Pakistan, representing Pakistan brand also. Asif, digital transformation, let me put you a difficult question. It is said over there, it's very easy to start a digital transformation program, but it's very difficult to close it and finish it. Okay. And especially we would like to hear, because your company is doing an implementation of these digital transformation programs in Middle East. So we'd like to hear what are the effective strategies that needs to be implemented for a successful digital transformation project.
Okay. Thank you, Saqib, and thank you, Future Summit Asfar, for inviting us. I would like to start with one line that Saqib asked the question. I would like to say, like in UAE and other Middle East, I think now it has been very common. Like they are thinking differently. That's why they are doing digital transformation. So I would like to say for all of my audience, don't build a digital firm. Build a firm for those raised digitally. So don't build a digital firm, build a firm for those raised digitally. So what does it mean? Don't build the best product. Build the best solution for the customers. So you have to move closer to the customer, engage with the customer, and then define the demand. That's what all these countries where digital transformation is successful, they are moving towards customer engagement and more. And Saqib, to be successful, I think digital culture is very important. What is digital culture of an organization? Digital culture is how an organization embraces the digital technology for how things get done in these organizations. So there are 5 attributes that we follow, and I think whoever you see the successful digital transformation follows the 5 key attributes. Number 1, agility. Number 2, digital first mindset. Number 3, customer centricity. Number 4, data informed decision making. And number 5, collaboration. So that's once you understand the digital culture and you follow those attributes of digital culture, it really gives you, it embraces and you become successful. And for the audience, I just want to describe what digital transformation aims to. There are very simple 2 aims. 1, how to improve operational efficiencies in the back office, and how to improve customer engagement in the front office. Because we all need to understand in this Middle East and all the customers, that they understand that creating the digital mindset and digital provides them a structured and higher growth. So when we do the digital transformation, we first work with the customer and tell them there are 4 key building blocks of digital transformation. Number 1, engaging customers, empowering employees. That is very important. 3rd, optimizing your operations, and then transforming your product or solution that is closer to the customers. If you follow all of this, there is no way that you cannot be successful, because it's at the end of the day, it's a mindset shift and it's a culture shift, and you need to know the building blocks of digital transformation. Because in today's world, organization has to have an urgency to lower their cost in today's environment, all the competitive environment, lower cost and multiplying your sales opportunities. You can only do it if you have customer centricity, customer engagement, and transforming all, as I said, like your operations to those who raise digitally. So if you think about it, and I think this is what I would say, that we are blessed that we have been following these methodologies. We embark on these opportunities in the region. And as we just heard from our fellow colleagues, that this is important. This is not like optional thing anymore, because if you don't do it, somebody else will come and disrupt you and you will be out of your business, because winner will be those in today's world who are going to drive the revenue opportunities from these new revenue streams. So you need to find these new revenue streams to transform your organization digitally. So yeah. I think.
No, I think, Asif, you touched 2 very important points. One is about the digital culture. I think it's very important to understand the dynamics of this digital culture. It's different. It's not only the culture itself. It has a lot of new norms which has to be managed in the best possible way. And the other point that you very well highlighted is about how the organizations, the customer centricity. You know, the customer of today is very smart. He exactly knows what he wants, and he will get, and if he's not satisfied, he will tell you he's not satisfied today. So it's very important to get that point of customer centralization over there as well. Thank you very much, Asif. Shahid sir, I think When I was thinking that you are on my panel, I was thinking digital transformation started in Pakistan from him, and it's going along. He has seen all the paths on that very front. So he carries that experience of in this Pakistan ecosystem. So we would like to know, great hand for him on this one. I think the question to you is that what is the role of digital transformation, especially when we are talking about in the living overall sustainability that is required in this environment today, and knowing that all these climate changes are happening. So how we can link sustainable living with digital transformation, knowing the climate changes that are having an impact in our lives day to day?
Thank you. It is always a pleasure to be in this august house, and especially with such illustrious panelists. I was hoping that Tariq would be here. It would have been a pleasure meeting him after many years. The question that is posed, I would like to just build a context as quickly as I can, and then see where we go about digital transformation. I've been with this industry for 38 years. I feel that what lies as our responsibility, and I have great colleagues in the panel with me, our responsibility is to show the path and then try and implement it as best as we can. So Pakistan, with its population base today at 230 million, projected to be 400 million by the 21st century, the 5th largest nation in the world, obviously people will be producing that kind of data. So the first thing we need to do is, what are the basic infrastructure things that we need to fix and why we need to fix them? The government needs to focus on how internet is brought at speeds of 200 to 400 megabits to homes, which is fiber or over the net later on, basically wireless, as technologies will progress. And for doing that and keeping the data within the country, we need to have internet exchanges. Currently we have 2. We need to build more. China has 10, plans to have 11 more. What happens then is whatever data you generate remains within the country. So then we need to fix our cyber sovereignty. We spoke about cyber security. We need to understand, are we going to follow the Western model or are we going to follow the Chinese model? Because cyber sovereignty then becomes the next challenge. Once the government has fixed these as 3 policies, the rest remains with the sector. And what happens with the sector is where we are very fortunate that we inherited what I call the Grand Trunk Road. Sher Shah Suri made this road, and the British then used it for East India Company. Then the Chinese came and helped us make what is called the motorway and the CPEC route. The CPEC route is our digital backbone also. It is our supply chain. What it needs next is to build around that clusters of living. And that is where, when you look at climate change and the crisis that we're going through, just this current episode that has taken place in Pakistan has cost us about $20 billion. With the youth bulge that we have, we need to build these new clusters with the following in mind, that how do you make these clusters livable from a sustainable standpoint? By 2040, we will be really short on water. So we need to look at urban agriculture. So urban tech or agriculture comes in as urban agriculture, because 8 of the top cities of Pakistan will host 120 million people. So you take Karachi, projected to be by 2100, 50 million people. We can see the state of Karachi today at 25 million people. So imagine 49 million people in Karachi. So 8 cities, Peshawar being the last one, 5.5 million people, and 400 million people in Pakistan. Every year we add 4.8 million people, and we've got to add 4.6 million homes if we want these people to be living somewhere. If we do not shift this culture from 250 to 400 million as the Z generation, we have a problem. Because they will be living in a stage where everything will be IoT-driven, technology-driven. Our friends have spoken a lot about technology in the morning. Now comes the implementation of the technology. So technology needs to be implemented. How we manage food security, how do we manage our energy? We need to bring down our energy costs to renewable energies. We have ample of solar. These clusters need to have solar. So that we bring that cost down, we need to bring our internet cost down. And then you equip the kids with the right education. So the age of technology has moved from IT to what is called robotech, neurotech, space tech, any tech that you talk about, each tech has a science background behind it. So you need to breed very good natural sciences, social sciences, and other sciences to be able to plug into this. Once you do that, then you have a cluster and you have sustainable living where every new generation kid needs to understand that he is accountable for using Earth's resources. We will be adding 1 billion people every 12 years on Earth. The resources are the same. Pakistan's geographical boundaries will not move. We will still be the size we are. How we use our exclusive economic zone, which is 256 million, 2 provinces are under the sea, and then the rest of Pakistan, which is about 799. If you add the 2, that's the area we will have. From there, we have to draw all of these things. Our biggest challenge is we are a seismic country. We have the largest glaciers, and we are being the worst hit because of climate crisis, not even change, it's climate crisis. To build around that, our disruption in technology has to be in these fields so that the future generation can be housed in such a way that they have access to technology at the best living cost. The difference between why highest number of technology outsourcing of Pakistan is being done with the US. The living cost in US per person is $1,300 to $154 here. If we do not maintain this living cost equilibrium in our favor, and we are beautifully positioned in the middle of the world where we can work both in the Far East and in the West, that will be our future. So digital transformation, as far technologies is concerned, has to be focused on how do you bring balance in Earth's resources and its uses. And if we can focus just on this, I'm sure we will be educating the rest of the world, and we will be the 5th largest economy of the world. Thank you.
I think Dr. Saab has highlighted exactly the point. We are all worried about how the digital transformation will impact our lives today. And think about when we will be a population of 400 million with the same set of resources that we carry today and the same geography, what we need to do and get ready. I think he explained the point in the best possible way that what is required to be done now for our next generation that is there. Thank you very much, Dr. Saab. Moving on to Mujib. Whenever Mujib and me are running 2 multinational organizations, and we are trying to run the businesses through the best talent that is available in Pakistan. So whenever Mujib is in a panel, it's almost of the same age group. I feel a bit younger by saying this comment only. So I think best thing that Mujib I will ask to you, what is the role of digital transformation in getting the best talent out of Pakistan, not only for the multinationals that we work for, but also for our organizations like System, which we can do the multinational global projects sitting over here and get this export services out running for us. How do you see that thing?
Thank you, Saqib. And I think our timer also was disrupted
yeah.
while Shahid Saab was talking, suddenly disrupted downwards by 15 minutes. So we'll try to be quick. I think a lot of my colleagues here have spoken about the impact that disruption is having in various areas. I think we see similar disruptions happening in the talent space as well. Globally, over the last couple of quarters, we've heard news of changes happening in workspaces. I think while all of that is happening, this disruption in technology and advent of new skills and new tools is also a huge enabler and opportunity for talent. Is that okay? For talent around the world, and especially in Pakistan. Somebody asked me earlier, if this is also an opportunity to sort of level the proverbial playing field for economies like Pakistan. And I, for one, certainly believe that it does provide an opportunity to the thousands of graduates that we produce, the youth bulge that my colleagues have spoken about, to learn these new technologies and tools, ride this disruption, and take advantage of it. Now, to your point of how can organizations like ours Asif Saab is here and so is Amara. You know, that in the tech community, the number one challenge right now is we have opportunities, we don't have skilled people. So while we talk about people looking for opportunities, there is an obvious gap which is pretty significant just in the tech space for people that they can fill using some of these disruptive technologies that we've referenced earlier. Now, how or what can be done? I think a couple of best practices from around the world that have been utilized. There's no reason why we can't leverage them as well. Some work is being done, a lot more perhaps should be done in that space. Number one is a fast-tracked bootcamp program targeting specialized skills that are very relevant, that are demanded by the industry, demanded by organizations like ours. You know, I'll give, for those of you who've heard me say this before, I'll apologize in advance, but you know, skills such as Salesforce developers. We, as you know, one of the larger tech players in the country, we need at least 300 or so. I'm sure Asif will need at least 3 times that many, and we can't find them in Pakistan. That is a huge opportunity. And to the youth sitting in this room, that opportunity needs to be capitalized. I got a chance to interact with some educators earlier in the afternoon, and there's a huge role that segment can also play, because otherwise we will continue to see this gap. If disruption is not happening in that space, it is not going to lead to us being able to bridge this gap. One other point I want to make, I want to be cognizant of time, is I think the disruption is also a huge enabler for organizations like ours and other multinationals and society generally to promote a diverse, equitable, and inclusive workspace. In Pakistan, women constitute less than 20% of our workforce. So we are, and if you take away teaching and nursing, that percentage is, I shouldn't even be mentioning what that percentage is. As a percentage of population, women are 52% of our population. So we are shooting ourselves not only in one foot, but both our feet if we are not able to capitalize on that talent. And this technology disruption, this post-pandemic scenario, hybrid virtual work, has enabled and allowed us to be able to leverage that vast talent pool. Similarly, I know a lot of organizations have done similar exercises, we've done as well. Programs that, one thing that we found a lot of success in very recently was leveraging this disruption and enabling people who are differently abled and the transgender community. We did a program with them on equipping them with technology skills, ran an internship program, and we've had so far close to a 30% conversion rate to full-time employees. This would not have been possible if we did not leverage technology to run these programs in the traditional mindset. So I think these 2 or 3 things, in my view, are super critical that can help us ride this disruption and use it for our advantage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mujib. I think very rightfully pointed out skill development and the role of women. I think very decent stat when we say that 20% and then we take out the teaching and nursing out of that one, that number is really low. So if we have to grow, we need to get women in every part of that we are working today. Thank you very much, Mujib, for bringing in these two points. I go back to Tariq Malik Saab. Tariq Malik Saab, in my first question, you talked about what are the different hurdles that come in a digital transformation journey in a public sector. We would rightly need to know that NADRA is an example for an institution for all of us, where we look forward that how the digital transformation has been so nicely implemented, and it is such a trusted weather over there, trusted department overall over their organization there as well. Can you tell us what were the key parameters of the success of the NADRA digital transformation that all the different organizations has to take care moving forward?
Yes, I think our strategy was to deploy not only the technologies, but at the same time, deploy the traditional or conventional infrastructure to actually gather the data. I mean, if you want the people to count on the state, then first you need to count them. So we have now 779 offices, static offices, almost in all tehsil level in Pakistan. And wherever the people cannot come to our office, it's a new model. We go to their doorstep by mobile registration vans, fitted with state-of-art equipment. And so if mobile van cannot go, reach out to you, we have motorbike service. If motorbike cannot go on the mountain, we have man-pack unit registering the people on the majestic heights of mountains of Pakistan. So the outreach mechanism matters, and that is one thing. And then back-end, infrastructure should be able to support your digital transformation. When I was in UN, we did a study and we found out that the countries who have leapfrogged the progress in digital transformation, they had their foundational systems intact. For example, Denmark, for example, Estonia, South Korea, so on and so forth. Their foundational system means the system like we have, national ID system, where you count the people, all the people are in your database, or digital census system or civil registration system, and the countries who do not only spend time in enhancing the capacity of the state institution, but also see the problems through the eyes of the citizen. When you keep on talking about only government and institution, you are looking through the lens of the government department to people. So that approach doesn't work. NADRA has different approach. We have public engagement department that listens to the voice of the citizen and then frames the policy and narratives and key messaging, and then invest in technology to bring about the innovative solution. Now, innovation is not bringing in something new or always sending, rockets on the, on the sky. It's innovation is also coming up with the new way of doing an old business. Right? So we keep on reforming our organization. So the countries who have strong foundational system, they can quickly roll out digital public goods or functional system, like, your electoral rolls underpinning one person, one identity, one vote can strengthen democracy. So that is a digital public good. You can roll out vaccination program, not only for COVID-related patients, but you can roll out the program for the children, making sure that everybody is vaccinated properly. Similarly, you can collect taxes from the people who are evading taxes, if they are living out large, you're living at the post localities, frequently traveling, but they don't have NTN, national tax number. So you have to broaden the tax net. And so the digital transformation would only happen when actually you will bring these people into the tax net. Digital transformation will happen if you have free and fair elections using these digital technologies. So the transformative part of the digital intervention, if you will, depends on these three building blocks. One is digitization, archiving of old data. And the second is digitalization, automation of process, the stuff I was talking about, innovation, business process improvement. so that it creates a wow factor to citizen, people, customers. And the third is bridging the gap of digital divide. Now, digital divide, we have spoken already, but it is in its all manifestation. It's not the internet or connectivity, it's the digi-skills also. I mean, look at that in Pakistan. When I left in 2014, I guess, 13, end of 13, Pakistan ranked 100, I think 146th in EGDI, Electronic Government Development Index. And now I came back and we are back at 153. So we have to do these interventions so that out of 193 or 97 countries, we rank higher by investing in digital infrastructure.
So,
similarly, according to the Inclusive Internet Index, I'm just finishing, Pakistan ranks 79 out of 100 countries globally. So, and ranks last out of 22 countries in Asia. So we have to do some extraordinary work to make the digital transformation happen. And that extraordinary thing is that, we have to invest in innovation, creativity, and digital infrastructure of Pakistan. And Nadra is just doing that. I mean, you mentioned your father, was able to feel the impact of digital transformation. And at the back end, KYC is done by Nadra. 50 million transactions per second we are performing right now. And that is the infrastructure that we have. And we are making sure that we invest in our future by expanding this infrastructure.
Absolutely, sir. And rightfully you explained out over there that how Nadra is in the backbone of every digital transaction that we are doing on the back end. I think that's a very important role that we are. Thank you very much, sir, for explaining that one in the best possible way. Amara, I'm from the generation of Star Trek. So you remember in Star Trek, we used to put a button and we can go to a year something in the future. So I saw one of the Star Trek movies in which they put on a button of 2075. So they went in there, they were transported over there, and then they went and they see the people are living in the old houses. There are villages. There is no technology out over there. So they thought there is some mistake. They have gone back somewhere 100,000 years back. But there is one guy that comes out of that village and they says, hey, they talk to each other and say, which is this year? They said it's 2075. And said, then why you are living in this old era? They said that we have covered this whole journey of technology and we felt it's better to live in the same old way that we used to live. Does this digital transformation will ever end or it is part of our lives forever?
I think this is a good story. I think as long as globalization exists, there will be no end to digital transformation.
A little bit closer, yeah.
I don't think there will be an end to digital transformation as long as globalization is there. And if we look at all of the use cases of digital transformation, the most three important ones are that, when enterprises go towards digital transformation, whether it is government enterprises or private sector, they are trying to modernize their digital assets and try to use them to their full potential. So this is one of the areas, where digital transformation is taking place. The other area, like Asif also mentioned, which is very important, is on the customer engagement side. So that is why what we are seeing is that in digital transformation, user experience becomes the most important. And as we are seeing, I mean, even in my own lifetime, I have seen 4 or 5 basic generational gaps which have now existed. So every new generation which comes has a different expectation, has a different definition of what they are used to. And that is one of the reasons why these digital transformations will never end, because we have to keep on meeting the demand of the new generations that come about. And I think the third one, which is also very important, is on the operational efficiency side, where process re-engineering becomes very important. And as we are seeing, and myself coming from the banking and financial sector, what I see is that more and more when there are new business models which are coming about, there is always some digitization which has to address these disruptions that are coming in the business models. And this, I think, will always remain, and that is why our business will always grow.
Digital transformation is not going to end. It's part of our lives. It will remain ever. We are there or not, digital transformation will continue like this. All the 4 gentlemen ahead, you have 3 minutes each. I have got the chats already. So coming to you clearly, next one, the role of AI and blockchain. How do you see in the success story of UAE, and how you see it can impact the people of Pakistan?
Yes, I want to mention it as a first, as I explained in the area in the beginning, when we are looking for the transformation in the beginning only to make it easy business. But today how we are looking, we are how to create a new business, how to create a new stream, how to create a new industry to bringing the business to the UAE. As I mentioned earlier, I think this is the time the business model should be changed, not to make it easy to do the business today, how to make, as a government, how to create a new industry for the government to create a new economy. Small example, what we are bringing here, for example, to the Pakistan as a UAE, we have our company in Dubai, and it is in VoiceMate. I think it had been mentioned earlier. We are providing blockchain, the first blockchain fintech powered by blockchain, bringing it to the Pakistan. We have a partnership with Jazz, we have with the leading bank. That example, giving example how to bring the business and how to create a new market for the business in the area.
No, absolutely. I think when we talk about AI today, when we talk about blockchain, it's very important that we enable us in the best possible way. We still need these skills in the youth of today to make best use of them. I think that is one area where we need to spend on this one. Asif, coming to you, what are the key takeaways for any company that is starting digital transformation in Pakistan today? Pakistan has its own ecosystem. Pakistan has its own challenges. Pakistan has its own opportunities. What are the 4 different key criteria that company has to take care at the start to have a very successful digital transformation journey in Pakistan? That's the key.
Okay. I would say that think about simplicity. Look to what customers need in our ecosystem, because we have our own set of problems that provides us an opportunity to solve that. So as you move your journey to customers, you will find the solutions in your digital transformation or in your startup or whatever you would like to do. So customer centricity, customer engagement, and whatever you think about, like how you are optimizing and empowering your employees when you are thinking about digital transformation journey. So I think I would like to say now, as Amara was saying, that digital transformation is not going to end, it will enhance only. Now you need to think about like traditional things from move to augmented reality and virtual reality. Because in augmented reality and virtual reality, not just in the back office, but also in the front office, also in the customer engagement, that how you can use. So if you think about those things when you are thinking about solving any customer problem in the ecosystem, and in Pakistan, look at your addressable market. Scalability is the key. That can you scale that? Don't think about a solution, very complex solution, which are not scalable, because scalability is the key in success and repetition. Like, will you be able to get the customers back what you are trying to accomplish? Will it be sustainable? So sustainability, scalability, reliability, whenever you're thinking about those in the startup, and don't look at just like what the startup is all about, the GMVs, and you just go about like increasing your top line without the sustainability and the scalability. So once you think about that, I think any startup can be successful and put yourself in the customer's shoes. Role reversal is must, and do the journey orchestration before you make any other decision.
I think you explained it well, so I'm not going to say a single word after that one. Shahid sir, very clearly coming in, we have run through this overall what happened with us in the floods due to the climate change. What digital disruption is required to manage this climate crisis, and who should manage this? Everybody talks about it, but nobody tells us whose responsibility is to manage this.
Responsibility, obviously, the government as a policy maker has to have it, but it is how the technology is adopted and sort of absorbed. So we saw in the past companies like Facebook, Instagram, even Netflix, they did amazing data analytics and have all kinds of analysis on us. And then out of the world, I shouldn't say out of the blue, but because we know now the processing power is there and the technology is there, the hardware is there, so we now have ChatGPT. For all those who are in this room worried about Pakistan's economy, our total debt is about $222 billion or $225 billion. This one company launched on the 25th of November, ChatGPT, by a Stanford dropout, 35-year-old. One company has revolutionized the disruption in this manner. Spotify took 150 days to get to 1 million subscribers. Instagram took 75 days. So you can see the change. 150 days, 75 days. ChatGPT got to 1 million subscribers in 5 days. In 30 days, it was at 57 million. In 2 months, it is at 100 million. The company has Microsoft and Elon Musk behind it. Total commitment, $10 billion, $1 billion put down. Today, in 2 months, its evaluation is $29 billion. This is what technology and disruption can do. When we look at climate change as crisis, we can convert this into an opportunity in applying it in the manner that we said, and we need to look at these technologies where human has to understand that the natural resources are limited. We need to apply technology to make sure that we use them judiciously. And once we do that, the technology will evolve itself, and we have this golden opportunity that we have that size and the expertise in this country to do it. So we can change and shift within days, within months, the future of this nation.
I think the figure speaks for itself. I think that's the kind of fast approach that we can adopt. And whatever current financial crisis that we have to find the opportunity to handle it on that very front as well. Mujib, coming to you and the last question of the panel that has to be there, let me say in clear words that whenever we talk about digital transformation and we go to the people and say we are going to transform your company, the first person that gets a lot of fear about is the employee itself, because he thinks this digital transformation is going to come and take their jobs away. There is a fear that digital transformation will disrupt the whole ecosystem that he has thought about over there. What is the biggest challenge for digital transformation? One example I gave you, and how to handle them. What kind of comfort that we can give to the people, that how their jobs and everything can be secured moving forward.
Yeah. No, very accurate, Saqib. It's always challenging when you talk about disruption, when you talk about change. It obviously drives anxiety and fear, and change always does. I think when you talk about barriers, a couple of them that we've come across, and I'm sure a lot of people who've done this in their organizations have similar views. One is agility. Agility in the sense of the ability of an organization at scale, not a few people or one team, but at scale to be able to go from doing one thing to another systematically and train that entire workforce at scale. That's very, very important, and a barrier that prohibits organizations, enterprises, in some cases countries, for adopting any of that change. I think another barrier that we see is the ability of an organization to cascade that message across its length and breadth. I really like the example that my colleague was sharing earlier on how the UAE went about creating that mindset from the top. Every time, and we've experienced this, I'm sure if several people can relate to it, whenever you want to teach a mindset in an organization, I think you have to start educating that organization, whether it's done through programs, through courses. We saw the path that the government of the UAE took in making sure that not only sort of key leaders, but the entire organization is able to sort of be sensitized and exposed and educated on that topic. So, for example, if you are introducing, it's not current, but it has been going on for quite some time, lean in terms of thought process in your organization, making certain that everybody understands the tenets of that is very, very important. That's how you will be able to build a culture in your organizations, in your communities. Similarly, when it comes down to disruptive technologies or causing a change in mindsets and thought process in an organization, it has to be done through an investment in resources towards educating your workforce and your team members. Otherwise, it doesn't happen through osmosis or there is no silver bullet. It is a time-consuming process. Once you change the mindset, then I think a lot of other barriers are removed as well.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, digital transformation is there to stay. It's part of our lives. It's going to stay with us forever. We need to embrace it. We need to get ready for it. We have talked about today that what are the basic challenges that has been there in this ecosystem that can stop the digital transformation. We have talked about today how NADRA, a great institution in our ecosystem, has already embraced that change and how much confidence that we have on this system today, that digital transformation program that is running successfully. We have talked about today overall how with the example of UAE, where the digital transformation has been done in the best possible way and what have been the key pillars that has been utilized by the society to get the results. We have talked today over there that how sustainability and overall customer focus is very important for the digital transformation to be successful. We have talked about the climate change and the impact, where we have clearly mentioned out today that we have to use this digital transformation, we have to use this digital disruption for the climate change management, and we have to own this problem, and we have to own for our youth that coming down over there when we will be a population of 400 million, how we have to start working on this digital transformation today to cover that gap. And most importantly, we have talked that without this talent, without the skill development, without the mindset change that is required within the company, and without investing on the people, this digital transformation cannot be successful. So we have to cover all these things in the whole path when we start on a digital transformation journey. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for being part of this panel. I think I really enjoyed the discussion as well. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you so much. This was brilliant. I mean, there's so many takeaways from this talk that I will need a separate talk to actually talk about all of them. Great reference to Star Trek, Saqib. I really love that. It reminded me of somebody questioning Einstein that which weapons will we use in the Third World War? He said, I really don't know. But in the fourth one, I know. He said, what? He said, sticks and stones. Because everything else will be destroyed in the third one. Little did he know that we may not need the conventional weapons. We are into more fine and evolved warfare. So agility, collaboration, digital first, scalability, efficiency in the back office, engagement in the front office, and that winners will drive opportunities from these new revenue streams. Disruption in education, I think that was a gem here, because that is where the difference comes in. And then looking for the extraordinary, all excellent takeaways. Thank you so much. We would now be requesting our Director, Nakshal Communications, Usman Yusuf, to please join us on stage for the presentation of souvenirs. We would also request Ali Akai, Chairman Martin Dow Group, to please join us on stage. I would especially like to thank Mohammad Tariq Malik Sahab, who has stayed with us online and has contributed so beautifully to this excellent conversation. If I could request Usman Sahab and Ali Akai Sahab to give away the souvenirs. Sayyid Muhammad Al-Hibsi, Sayyid Muhammad Al-Hibsi, Asif Peer, Dr. Shahid Mahmood, Dr. Shahid Mahmood, Amara Masood, Mujib Zahoor, and Saqib Ahmed. Thank you. Over to you, Asma.
During my welcome address, I mentioned to all of you about when we started this Future Summit. I mentioned about my co-founders, Ghayas Khan of Engro and Ali Akai of Martin Dow. Ali is here. He is the co-founder of this Future Summit since last 6 years. Thank you, Ali.
Hello again, everyone, and I feel that the energies are dwindling a bit. There'll be a good cup of coffee waiting for you at the other end of this session, provided that you participate and clap well. So we're coming to the fifth session now. Ladies and gentlemen, with each era of innovation, business and leadership models are obligated to recreate themselves. With the pressure of the fast pace of change and the ever-increasing competitiveness, the traditional leadership models of demanding and controlling approaches have to change. The new normal in today's workplace is defined by agility and innovation, which demands that leaders of today also communicate, engage, empower, and collaborate. This session, the fifth session, brings together professionals from a variety of backgrounds and expertise, and they will share their experiences on leadership and strategy in the new age, which is the age of disruption. So I will now invite the worthy panelists on the stage, please. Mr. Adil Farhad, Chief Executive Officer, Procter & Gamble, Pakistan. Mr. Adil has been part of P&G for the past 20 years. He's worked at senior positions at P&G in Saudi, UAE, Switzerland, and Nigeria, overseeing operations and product categories. Thank you, Adil. Mr. Ahmed Khan Bozai, Managing Director and City Country Officer, Citibank. Bozai Saab has expertise in corporate strategy, new markets, operational risk management, and business efficiency. He was COO for the EMEA Emerging Markets Cluster based in Dubai. He has previously worked with Citi in Pakistan, Greece, and the UK. Thank you, Bozai Saab. Next, I would like to invite my very favorite Nas Khan, Principal Country Officer, International Finance Corporation, Pakistan. So the last time Naz was part of any panel on Natural Group's summit, she was here as Chief Strategy Officer at K Electric, which was her last assignment. She has over 2 decades of experience in financial services as well as industry. She's remained at key positions at Engro Corp, at KASP Funds Limited, and has also served on the boards of several organizations. Thank you, Naz. Now I'd like to invite Mr. Javed Ghulam Mohammed, Group Managing Director and CEO, Martin Dow Group. He has experience in diversified functions like finance, marketing, international business, business development, supply chain, regulatory affairs, and new product development. Under his leadership, the Martin Dow Group has experienced unprecedented growth. Thank you, Javed Bhai. Now I'd like to request Mr. Steve Lee to please join us on the stage. Steve is the Regional Head of Employee Relations and Market Development, Asia Pacific at the ACCA. He works with employers, universities, and learning institutions across markets to optimize partnerships and develop opportunities together to further the accountancy profession and advance the careers of finance professionals. Very happy to have you, Lee. The last speaker of this panel is Paul Kaiser, co-founder and CEO The Talent Games, founder and CEO Engage Consulting. He's an innovative business leader and HR professional who's also a highly sought after speaker and a renowned name in the HR technology space. Thank you, Paul. Now I'd like to invite the moderator for today's last panel, which Fatma Asad Said, again, a very good friend. Fatima, please join us on stage. She's the CEO of Abacus Consulting Technology Limited. Her company delivers progressive solutions in corporate governance, digital transformation, strategic change, human capital management, enterprise technology solutions, and project leadership across multiple sectors and industries. So here is our panel and moderator, and Fatima, I'm leaving this panel in your very able hands.
Assalamu alaikum and good evening, good afternoon. It's been an exciting day. It's been an insightful day. Great thoughts, points of views throughout. Starting with, obviously, the topic at hand from prepare for disruption. And we heard at the government level, at the governance level, we talked about climate change, digital transformation, impact of supply chain disruption, of course, the human capacity, human capability that is required to ensure business continuity into the future as well. So there have been quite an in-depth conversation on challenges, insights on what needs to be done. But I believe that this particular session, which is the final session for today's exciting day, hopefully will set the scene for what tomorrow brings. There is disruption. And in that, what we have discussed as a panel as well, to change the sequence a bit and make it a bit more interactive and engaging. Given the fact that we are continuing to live in a very fragmented world, a world which is challenged by natural calamities, by supply chain disruptions, by mental well-being and wellness challenges as well. There are conversations on geoeconomics, geotechnology, and fundamentally changing the way we are living our lives, not only at an organizational level, but also primarily at an individual level. So as societies, as communities, as organizations and as nations, we grapple with the uncertainty. We must also change realities and redefine ourselves. So without further ado, I would request that we change the furniture a bit and have a bit of an arc. So we're going to have a more of a roundtable discussion rather than opening this particular session with opening statements. So I would request, thank you very much, Paul, thank you. So just bear us for a few minutes. Yeah, so we can see each other as well. Eye contact is very important in this day and age. Yes, Asfar, you're okay with this? You're fine? Asfar is like, what's going on? What have you done to my conference? But thank you for this opportunity. It is the theme of the day, so we thought a bit of disruption is good. And rethinking how we do business and how we basically navigate through our lives as well. So what I'm going to do is throw out a question, and what we will start with is a conversation on the challenges and the priorities that are impacting or affecting your specific sectors. So, Javed Saab, would you like to start with the pharma sector? Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Okay, now everybody can hear me, right? So thank you very much. First of all, thanks to Nurchal for providing us an opportunity to have a discussion about the industry challenges and the opportunities that we have. So me being from a pharmaceutical company, Martin Dow Pharmaceutical, so I'll just give you a little brief, let's say, about the challenges and the opportunities that we see in this sector. So Pakistan pharmaceutical market is approximately $3.2 billion market. And if you see that there are more than 650 pharmaceutical companies operating in Pakistan, there is highly fragmented or highly competitive industry that we have here. Now if you look at the per capita pharmaceutical market or the medical consumption, medicine consumption in the country is one of the lowest in the world. Because of population base of 250 million to 300 million that we have, and the market size is only 3.2 billion. So one can see that this is one of the lowest per capita medicine consumption in the world. And I'm saying one of the lowest, I'm comparing it with Bangladesh, I'm comparing it with India, I'm not comparing it with the West or the US market. Now why this is one of the lowest? There can be either people are very healthy in Pakistan, but that's not true. We have the highest prevalence of diabetes in this country, so we can't say people are healthy. There are two factors behind this. One is the accessibility of medicine, and the second one is the low pricing that we have. So when we look at the accessibility, is that why accessibility is low? Because the medicine is not available to the mass level here. Is one of the reason is that government focus or the spending on the health sector is also very low. If you look at the percentage spending on the health is lowest among all the sectors that we have. And most of the healthcare has been taken over, unfortunately or fortunately in this country, by NGOs. If you look at Indus Hospital, they are expanding, they are providing free treatment to most of the people here. When I look at and take the example of SIUT, so that most of the healthcare responsibility has been taken over by NGOs, which is basically the responsibility of the government. So this is the reason we see that accessibility of medicine is one of the lowest in the world. Now, the second point where we come is that the pricing part. I think we are the only industry, or maybe one of the few industry in Pakistan, which is being regulated in terms of pricing. Whether it is essential medicine or non-essential, all the medicine prices are controlled by Ministry of Health, and under them, they have a Drug Regulatory Authority of Pakistan. We have not seen this kind of price control anywhere in the world. And if you look at the macro indicators that we have, with the massive devaluation of more than 50%, and we talk about the inflation, which is in the range of around 35 to 50%, and every other commodity is increasing, but pharmaceutical industry is not allowed to increase the price of medicine, despite there is an increase in cost of more than 50%. Last week, I was in Dubai and I went to the market to do some survey. And we saw one medicine of diabetes, which is the first line of treatment, which is metformin, is available in Dubai at equivalent Pak rupees is 70 rupees per tablet. And the same product is available in Pakistan at 3 rupees per tablet. You can see the kind of a difference that we have. And government is still expecting us to produce the high quality product and make it available for the people here, which is now getting impossible, and we can see that most of the pharmaceutical companies either close down, and good companies which are not ready to compromise on the quality, they have no other option but to close down. Now, if you see the pharmaceutical market around 10 to 15 years back, 70% of the market was basically with the multinationals and 30% with the local generic companies. And now this ratio has changed completely. Now 70% is with the local companies and 30% is with multinationals. When it says that 70% is the local, one thing is that local companies have come up and taken the role of producing medicine and making it sure it is available for the community. At the same time, unfortunately, multinationals are leaving from Pakistan. I was working in Philippines and I saw that out of like so many multinational pharmaceutical companies in the world, only 3 or 4 of them have their manufacturing base in Philippines. Whereas when we got independence in 1947, so I think there were more than 20-25 pharmaceutical companies here, including GSK, GlaxoSmithKline, Wellcome, Ledley, Abbott, Pfizer, and you name it, they all had their manufacturing facility in Pakistan. Now, what happened over the years, either maybe due to our government policies, maybe the bureaucracy, the political environment, or whatever the factors are, most of these MNCs have left the country, and now we have only 4 or 5 with their manufacturing base in the country. The prices at which we are forced to produce is no more possible, and they cannot see the financial feasibility in the country. They cannot introduce new products in the country. As a result, now we have only 4 to 5 multinationals operating in the country. When we talk about the globalization, we have to provide a level playing field to all the investors here. Unfortunately, Pakistan had a very strong manufacturing base, but these MNCs, whatever the factors and reasons were there, but they never made Pakistan as a manufacturing hub for exporting medicines from here to Asia, to CIS countries and to GCC countries. We have seen the countries like Malaysia, we have seen the countries like Thailand. They don't have their own export, but the big MNCs have set up their manufacturing base, and as a result, they are having a good value of export that they generate. Now, these are the challenges, these are the problems that...
So let's go around with the challenges as well. Thank you very much. So there is great opportunity over there, but because of the heavy regulation in terms of price, it is impacting the sustainable growth model, which can obviously improve the well-being of the 230 million people that we have in our country. And we've talked about our population figures as well. Health remains a top priority, and access to good health as well as medicine. But I would now take the conversation from an FMCG perspective. Do you feel that there are similar challenges? And if not, then what is it that you see that is really impacting the sector? And I would request the panelists to keep the answers short and concise so we can have a more interactive discussion, focus on the problem-solving aspect after we've identified the challenges. Thank you.
Thank you, Fatma. I want to first thank Asfar and Nachal for the opportunity. I'll talk about 3 disruptions that are impacting our business and more broadly our industry. The first one is the workplace disruption. I'll then talk about digital disruption, and the third one I want to talk about is citizenship disruption, more specifically sustainability and equality and inclusion at workplace. So talking about the first one, which is workplace disruption, I think we are living in times where for employees, post-COVID reality is that flexibility at work and well-being at work is a much bigger priority than how fast is their career progressing. So I think this is one disruption that is happening as we speak, and we need to tackle it to make sure that we continue to grow and develop our organizations. I think the second one is upskilling and reskilling. I think the times where you can have a particular skill and can live off that skill for the next 5 to 10 years are long gone. And I think we must also actually go forward that not only upskilling and reskilling, but within that period, unlearning and relearning. I think that's another disruption that is happening as we speak, and we need to continue to remain caught up with it. And the second one is digital disruption. Long session, outstanding session on digital disruption, so I don't want to belabor about it. I want to address 2-3 data points that needs to be used to make sure that our industry and our business continues to do well. The first one is that Pakistan's tele-density is about 85%. So that's about 195 or 200 million people. Within that, about 125 million people have mobile or broadband services. So that's a significant business opportunity that lies ahead of us, and we must tap into it. The second one, an outstanding financial inclusion survey was released by Karandaz, and they are telling us that the financial inclusion in Pakistan has gone up to 30% from, I think, single digits or maybe early double digits 2 or 3 years ago. I think, and unfortunately, within that, the women inclusion is still 13, 14%, male inclusion is 40% or 50%, but that's a topic for another day. But I think that these two data points give us enough opportunity in Pakistan to go after that business potential, and that is very close to where we are. And I think if I were to summarize this, the summary lies in the fact that going forward, data needs to be looked at raw materials like we look at raw materials at our factories. Going forward, the difference between winning and losing between any industry, any company is going to be the difference that how those particular companies or particular industries use data. The last one I'll talk about is the citizenship disruption. I'll first talk about equality and inclusion. I think 50% Pakistan is represented by females. That needs to very quickly start to reflect in our companies also. I'm very proud to state the fact that P&G Pakistan's leadership team is 55% female. Our head office is 46% represented by women. We would like to go forward and do even more, but we are very proud of these statistics. The second one is sustainability. I think consumers are looking to use more sustainable products which are manufactured through more sustainable and responsible means. We had some empty land at our Port Qasim facility. We have converted that into a 2-megawatt solar park. So if any one of you, or hopefully all of you, are using Ariel washing detergent, 30% of Ariel is produced through solar energy. The other thing that we are doing is encouraging everyone, and I'm encouraging here all of you, to wash your clothes with cold water. Believe me, clothes wash as well in cold water than they do in hot water. That will save a lot of electricity, so that's another wonderful way to go. So workplace disruption, digital disruption, and disruption in citizenship is probably the 3 most important factors disrupting our industry.
Thank you very much. And that opens the door towards Naz, when I know you're fairly recent in your role with the IFC, so your previous stint in the power sector. And if we link it up in terms of the challenges, and we heard Monas earlier as well, Mona Salvi talking about the challenges within the energy sector. And that is one of the crises, not only at the global level, but also at a national level. Do you feel that that is being addressed as, well, I won't say intelligently, but prudently, given where we are heading as a country?
So thank you, Fatma. So I think, so first of all, let me just, because we have this theme of disruption as well. So as you know, even within the energy sector, disruption is a big theme. Right? And we've seen a lot of these trends that people have spoken about the whole day, which is whether it's technology, whether it's infrastructure, you know, where you have cloud, SaaS, 5G, etc. You have consumer preferences that are changing with respect to energy as well, you know, people going green. You have so many other things that are happening on this count. This is more the global that's happening, and even within the energy sector, you know, the typical utility models are changing. You don't have, you don't have the kind of utility models that you have over here. So there is a lot of disruption within this sector, as it is because of technology and shifting consumer preferences. When you overlay all of this, which is happening globally anyway, with, let's say, the Pakistan situation, where you have generally political uncertainty. You may have, on the regulatory side, you don't necessarily have consistency in policy. And then you have another, your customers are changing in Pakistan. I mean, if 2/3 of your population is under 60, if your median age in the country is under, I mean, it's under 23, it's 22.8 years. So when you're talking, you overlay all of these things, it makes planning very difficult when you're talking about strategy and planning, because typically, traditionally, companies have been used to planning in a certain way, you know, when they plan for the future, with incremental changes, because it's been a relatively and a comparatively stable kind of environment. So when there's an environment, when there's uncertainty, where there are unforeseen developments, etc., it makes the challenges much greater on the energy front as well, and planning for any company. Energy more so because it's also a sector which is very heavily regulated by the government. So I think there are significant challenges on this side, but I think the important thing to do in such a scenario is when you want to plan as well. I think there are 2-3 things. Number one, I think you will have to be a constantly thinking corporate. Okay. And what that means is that you have to embed innovation in your system. And that means culture starts becoming extremely important, right? So that's the first thing. Number 2, I think the CEO doesn't now know it all and cannot bear the burden of knowing it all either, because the information is just so vast and there's so much available and it's constantly changing that one person cannot know everything. So the way I see the CEO's role now is really more of an enabler, where you make sure you get the right talent, you bring them in, you make sure you have the ability to harness the power of the individual, and you make sure you create the systems within the company to be able to harness that power. And number 3, since you don't know it all either as an individual or even as a company, don't try to do everything yourself because the execution risk is very high. So collaboration and partnership starts becoming extremely important. So I think these 3 things then start becoming very important in terms of how you should lead going forward.
Thank you very much. And it's interesting you use the word in terms of the enabler at the chief executive level or the person at the helm of affairs. And what they're saying is there's a new the new term being coined that the CEO is actually the chief ecosystem officer. In terms of bringing all stakeholders onto the same page and enabling them to move forward. And collaboration at that level is key, because at the end of the day, it's the tone at the top that drives the way the organization will sustain. And that links up to, if I could take the conversation to you, Paul, in terms of the people aspect. Adil also mentioned upskilling and reskilling, and also the citizenship element, the disruption that is taking place as well. In your experience as well, across different territories and economies, where do you see the talent shifting in terms of strategies?
Thank you, Fatima. I love the elements that Nas mentioned, because if you look at the title of this summit, it's about prepare for disruption. And I'm just asking sometimes I'm asking myself, and we often talk about how others have to be prepared for disruption. How often do we as individual leaders are preparing ourselves for disruption? When was the last time that we upskilled ourselves in terms of working with partners? That requires very different skill set than the old-fashioned CEO that you're there, in terms of being able to declare that you don't know and managing ecosystems. And how much do we disrupt ourselves and reflect on our own abilities to lead and prepare for that disruption? And I think, because at the end of the day, if we all go back to our experience, and we go through our experience and says, when we were successful, when our companies were successful and our companies were not successful, if you have to drill it down, and do the 6 why question, I promise you that in 90%, the 6th why answer is going to be the leader of that organization. And at the end, the leader of that organization has a significant impact on the success of that business, whether that's in a steady state or in a situation of disruption. And I think leadership becomes even more important in that area of disruption. And that requires each one of us to disrupt ourselves. That requires each one of us to upskill ourselves. And that requires us to make ourselves vulnerable as well, because we don't know everything. Yeah? And that's where I think the excitement lies. And the opportunity lies for each one of us also in this room to actually disrupt ourselves.
Thank you very much. And that is extremely key in terms of redefining our own identities in order to tackle the challenges that disruption is bringing forward. And that is then replicated or amplified at the organization level. Now, linking that up to Ahmed, when we look at financial inclusion, we talked about it earlier, some of the speakers also mentioned in terms of an integrated approach across industries. It's not just the banking sector per se, but it's also access to capital. And the credit crunch is a global and a national phenomena right now. So where do you see the banking industry, or how do you see the banking industry pivoting at this point in time?
Thank you, Fatma, and thank you, Asper, for the opportunity. If you look at any bank's website, you'll see a host of products being listed there. Mortgages, cards, loans, payments, receivable, trade, whatever. And you take all those products and map them against challengers in the industry right now, who are typically called fintechs. And each one of those products can be offered by them, in some cases, in a better way, in a more efficient way, in a more cost-effective way. So banks can do two things. One is just not be humble enough, show no humility, and say these are upstarts and they will go away on their own, in which case that bank will most probably fail. The other one is having the intellectual curiosity and the humility to accept that they are partners. Closer? Okay. And they are partners, and you can work together in offering a service to your customers which they actually need. Now, Europe has taken a big step in that by way of what they call open banking, where banks are then required to share their data and their information with fintech companies who potentially will be offering better services. That's one way of increasing the D&I in an inclusion aspect, certainly, that you mentioned. The other thing that I want to touch upon is around the subject of culture here, because without that cultural change element that was mentioned by Naz, by Adil and others, I don't think any discussion of disruption would be complete. That mindset has to change, and it starts from the top. I completely agree, the CEOs have to change their mindset. Your teams have to be intellectually curious. You have to have the humility as well to accept that you don't know everything. And you also have to have the humility to accept that others can do your job better than you. It's only then will you be able to adapt. And I think the combination of that will probably lead to the place that, Fatma, you want financial industry to move towards. I'll just close with one small example. And in fact, because I see the audience is getting bored with my talk on financial services, when was the last time anybody went to a bank happily, saying, I'm going to go to a bank today, I'm so excited? Nobody goes to a bank in that way. Oh, you do? All right, awesome, good for you. You're probably going to collect cash. But the point is that banks have a service to play by way of their network. In our country, they certainly do, especially in rural areas where digital penetration is low, and you need a place where people can go, they can talk to a branch manager, they can inquire. But in other markets, it's redundant now. So again, the question of adaptability comes through. You've got to adapt to the market you've got to adapt to your customers' needs, and you've got to be humble enough to accept that you may not have the bright idea all the time.
Thank you very much. And this is extremely important, not only in terms of customer engagement, so understanding what the customer wants, and then not only adapting it, but ensuring that it is at the heart of the business strategy that is being put in. And that action planning is key to sustainable growth as well as business continuity. Which links up to Steve. When we talk about, we are mentioning fintechs, we're looking at digital payments, we're looking at the way customers are engaging. They don't want to go into the branch physically. They want everything to be at access within their smartphones. How do you see that impacting the skill set that is required? Not only in terms of the financial industry, but I think broad-based, all organizations have financial officers as well. What does it mean? How does it fundamentally change the profession in terms of financial experts that are required now?
Thank you, Fatima. And just personally, now, well, I've come from Singapore. Nowadays, whenever I call a bank or visit a bank, I'm praying inside that I get to deal with a human being. Because everything is automated, sometimes it's not the easiest experience to get the help that you need. But that's me, and I'll come back to this. I'm here on behalf of ACCSO. We're very happy to be a part of this esteemed panel. I am representing the voice of the professional accountancy and finance profession. But on the topic of disruption and challenges, I'd like to bring the discussion back down to the individual level. So we know the disruptions over the last 3 years have brought about many advances as well. So in terms of how we work, digital transformation, working flexible hours, working from a distance, and the introduction of new technology, that's been great. But we also know that stress levels are higher than ever. Mental health is suffering. Anxieties over job security are at an all-time high, right? And among finance professionals and accountants, this anxiety has been great. So in our own global survey, we have over 200,000 professional accountants around the world and another 500,000 students. We can tell that finance professionals have been severely impacted by these disruptions. Their responsibilities have not reduced. In fact, they've increased because the COVID disruptions have caused planning cycles to be disrupted, forecasting to be disrupted, and they've had to deal with the technology and the changing workforce. So we know, fundamentally speaking, work is a very human experience. And because it is a very human experience, then as leaders, we must approach it from a humanist point of view. That means focus on work, but at the same time giving consideration to the humane, to compassion, to understanding, to the necessity of really good data. Only with this and this culture can organization attract the really good staff that it needs, and then motivate the existing staff within the organization to rethink about their skill sets, rethink about their competencies, and then really giving their all and sacrificing for the good of the company. And as leaders, I think this requires, managing with intention. So not just focus on the outcomes and the results that you think are what the company needs, but how you're going to go about doing this work as well, and who you go about doing this work with. And then how this interaction with this other human being plays out, I think is very important. Because as human beings, you can weigh the data that you have, you can give thought as to what the hard decision is, what the soft decision is, and then you can decide the balance between hard and soft approach. Like many of our fellow speakers today, I also consulted ChatGPT, right, about disruptions at work and leading to change. And it was able to give me all the usual management rhetoric as how you deal with it. You cherish innovation, you encourage retraining, et cetera, But what we can do as human beings is to make that balance between the hard and soft decisions and to approach it from a humanistic point of view.
Thank you very much. And it's very interesting that you say being human or being humane is fundamentally the key driver towards taking organizations and individuals forward. But I feel that sometimes it's counterintuitive because we are humans, well, most of us, but in terms of how we act. And, and the fact is that it's amplified. What is happening around us has been amplified in terms of focusing on being more human, bringing out compassion, bringing out empathy. But in all of this disruption that is taking place, I would ask all of you, if I just give it a bit of thought, when you look at your respective business strategies, let's say even a 3-year, what is the main theme behind that? And where has being human being prioritized in that strategic plan. It's a very key component of how we take businesses forward in terms of resilience. So I'll just have a quick round, and I would also like to, as you make that comment, I'd like perhaps to engage the audience and show of hands if what they're saying resonates. So very quickly, just raise your hand if one of the speakers has mentioned something that resonates with any of you. Sorry, Naz, you had a comment before I go to...
No, just a quick comment on what Steve was saying. It's interesting when you talk about disruption and the paradox that's there.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you're talking about job anxiety.
Absolutely.
And definitely that's there. But when you look at the younger generation and the one that's coming into the workforce, and you wonder that they want that purpose and passion in that workplace, and if they don't get it, they're willing to just leave. Right? That job anxiety doesn't seem to be there. With them, and you wonder, so at the one hand you've got the senior people, the job anxiety, and you've got this younger lot that's not there. I mean, today we sit and talk about a future summit, we're talking about the future, yet if your median age is 23, how many of those people or similar ages are on panels, right? So when you sit in large companies and you're deciding about the future, how many people on boards do you see when you talk about diversity? It's not just gender diversity, it's diversity of thought, right? So how many young people do you see? Or even if they're not there on the board, and one of the things you can do is set up advisory boards, how much of that input do you see from the younger lot? So I'm just saying there's such a paradox here.
It's very interesting because Harvard studies have shown that if organizations at the governance level have shadow boards, that connectivity between those at the governing level with the execution team is not only shortened, there's more agility, and there's more engagement with the younger generation. So that's something for all of us to think about. So very quickly, thank you for that. Where does the human element factor in terms of priorities within your strategic plan?
Right up there. I think...
And what's the main theme?
The main theme is take care of the people will take care of the business.
Okay, so how many of you feel that this is at the heart of your respective organizations? Great, we have excellent
I'll just
people.
have one disclaimer to this.
Yes.
Make sure your workplace is 50-50. Because unfortunately in Pakistan, the gender participation by women is only, I think, 18 or 19%. It's the responsibility of all of us to pull that up as high as possible, and it will start at home. I'm a firm believer that talent is universally distributed, but opportunity is not. So let's take that opportunity to all the females in Pakistan. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you.
Is, of course, top for us as well as in the financial services industry. We've only got two assets, people and technology. And I know some of you will object why I called people an asset. It's not. But the point is that if you're not solving for your employees, you cannot be solving for your customer. It's as simple as that. I grew up in a generation where, as a junior analyst, we had to spend 20-hour days at stretches for weeks on ends. And we were just told to shut up and do your work, and that's why you get paid. You can't do that now. Now our analysts who are coming in, they expect work-life balance. They expect it to be treated differently. They have different aspirations in life as well. And you have to accommodate. You just can't impose your own style of doing things. And that, as a result of which, we've now in Europe set up a hub in Malaga instead of London. I mean, you think of finance, you think London, you think Frankfurt, you think Hong Kong, Singapore. You don't think of Malaga. But we've had to move a center there because people want to spend more time with their friends, with their families, on the beach. And so you have to adapt. And that's very new to all of us. As managers, it takes us time to adapt. But if you don't do that, then you won't be able to attract the right talent.
So adapting in terms of the new normal, essentially, and the remote concept, but it's more than connectivity through enabling people to be working from anywhere. And it's also about how the organizational systems are integrated. You know, of course, there are matters of security and confidentiality, etc. monitoring mechanisms as well. Is that something, a show of hands in the audience, that your organizations have pivoted towards to enabling and understanding your requirement as an individual working in your respective organization? Show of hands. We have, excellent, we're just a few.
Sarah doesn't count because she works for Citi.
Yeah. Thank you. Naz.
I think the human element there really is, in your strategy, is purpose. Because that's something that everyone aligns behind. It's something that is deep, it matters to you. And if it matters to you, it's authentic, it's not a job. You know, and you are doing something which is for the greater good. So it gives you happiness. That's the human element, purpose.
Thank you. So purpose, that is another aspect, and we heard about that in the earlier sessions as well. Meaning of how have we understood what the meaning of each organization is? Have we pivoted towards understanding what is the purpose and what value are we creating to the people who are within us? Do you see that in your respective organizations? Does it resonate with you? And are you aligned towards that strategic shift, is the question. So we have, again, and some are repeating, I think we're, okay. Javed Saab.
Sorry, I'll refer to, I was reading one Harvard article, which is one of my favorite too, because of what kind of leadership or what kind of people you require in the company these days. So they said that one is important that you need to have a technology-savvy humanist. Technology-savvy humanists, you need to have that. Because whatever the technology you adopt, it is very important that you should not forget about the people here. And the second one was very critical, is that you need to have strategic executors. You can have a very ambitious or a bold idea, but unless until your quality of execution, your completion of your ideas in a timely manner, and this is very, very critical, and this cannot be achieved without people. And we being in a pharmaceutical, because we have a personal selling model, we are not allowed to market our products to the masses through any kind of media. So we have a personal selling model. We have 4,000 people working in the field. And during the COVID times and the post-COVID times, and these people have, because being essential industry, we were not given off, so we were working at that time too. So I'm personally thankful to each and every employee of, let's say, my company or the pharmaceutical industry who are working in the field, detailing their products to the doctor, providing the services. I think those people are very critical for us and will remain there forever.
Thank you very much. So, you know, it's all about disruptive innovation. And when you talk about enabling innovation within organizations, a certain study, a Stanford study, also talked about that it's not just about the startups where you have an environment which enables idea generation, and then there's incubation, and then you actually implement that idea. Fundamentally, it has to be the way even mature businesses do business. And that's a culture shift, what some of you have been also talking about as well. So enabling disruptive innovation and ensuring that is linked to sustainability, but at the heart of it is the human element, which is driving that innovation and is recognizing that is a very key strategic priority. And I guess the reason why I would ask the audience to think about it is to question, when we talk about purpose, is also to question that this is what's going to enable our respective organizations to drive into the future. And fundamentally, these become the main key factors which will enable business continuity as well. So think about what these particular priorities are, and is your leadership not only sending out that message, but is also defining the strategic objectives with the human element as one of the top priorities. Steve.
Well, Fatima, one thing the human connection generates is trust. So we know trust is lacking these days. Trust of businesses, trust among employees for their company and for their leadership. It's one thing, to say the least, at the moment. So if we can garner this trust, then employees know that they can believe in their leaders and they feel safe. And when they feel safe, they give it their all, they sacrifice, they give their blood, sweat, and tears to make sure that everyone succeeds. So I'm just quoting, Simon Sinek. He says, true leaders are willing to sacrifice numbers for their people, not the other way around, right? So in this day and age when everything's interconnected and everything is made very public very quickly, not having that sense of trust and safety among your own people is very dangerous and extremely harmful to the reputation and the trust that the consumers have for that brand, for that company. So I think that's absolutely essential, and that's where the human connection and the human touch is more important than ever.
So true leaders also inspire others and build their careers. And therein, that is where the value is derived for their own development as well. So Paul, some final thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, I've been in the people business for 35 years. So I've seen it across a number of different countries, companies. The interesting thing is, and everybody has always said throughout the 35 years, people are the most important asset, correct? But in what kind of words we all say it. Interesting thing, of course, at the moment, and where the disruption comes in again, is that with the dollar at 275 or 280, it is so much easy to be a freelancer and earn significantly more than if you'd earn in a company. As a result, your opportunity to work somewhere else or combine is significantly bigger. Similarly, your opportunity, because of the youth bulge that we have and the slightly older population in other parts of the world, they would need that youth bulge to go to other parts of the world. And as a result, people have opportunities to leave. As a result, the ability first to attract people to work for you is going to be much more, is significantly disrupted. Secondly, then to keep them to stay for you is significantly disrupted because of, as Na said, because of purpose, because of what people want. And as a result, we completely have to reconfigure the way that we build a relationship with people that work with us. Trust is a big part of that. Partnership is a big part of that. And I think very soon it's going to be fine if a person works for you for 3 hours a day and he works 2 other jobs for also 3 hours a day. And that is that we have never thought about that kind of relationship with people that work with you, because we want them on our payroll, we want them as an asset rather than as a human capability that we would like to utilize. And I think that is such an exciting thought. And that's going to be completely reconfigure the way that we do the people business as a leader.
Thank you very much. And I believe that what we have talked about is on a positive note. Yes, there are challenges. There was a bit of a doomsday scenario in the morning as well that was painted. The conflicts will remain. The challenges will remain. The idea is to win despite what faces us, collectively, collaboratively as well. And at the heart of the conflict, as we navigate through this particular conflict, both at a national level and as an international level, is fundamentally the human element. So the disruption is, while it is technology, definitely, but it is also geoeconomics. It is also about, geopolitics that is taking place. How supply chains are being disrupted, as I mentioned earlier as well. How trade routes are being, and agreements are being redrafted, thought as well in terms of priorities changing at a national level. But at the human level, I believe that we're not doing enough, and that is where the optimism and the hope lies, and that is what I'm hearing from all of you. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where the true success will lie, because the esteemed panelists over here have demonstrated that they're fully focused on having a strategic plan in place, which is being driven by the human element, but they are also aware of the fact that customer engagement, understanding the ecosystem as it changes, also be cognizant of the fact that the ecosystem is very uncertain. There's unpredictability which will continue into the foreseeable future, but they must harness the next generation, the energy of the next generation, the human capital knowledge that exists within Pakistan and outside Pakistan. So as we wrap up, and I see the timer as well, how about some final notes? And who would like to go first in terms of what are your thoughts on what should be done? What is your top priority as a business leader in this area of disruption? So we'll begin from Paul and work ourselves down towards Adil.
If you want to prepare for disruption, disrupt yourself first. I'll leave it at that. Oh, thank you.
Having the ability to step back is very important. I think they call it achieving clarity from a distance. Because everything in the world nowadays is interconnected. So having a big picture never hurts.
I feel that during the crisis period that we are facing right now, there are always opportunities. And we can't say there are no opportunities in the country. There are a lot of opportunities in the country. The only thing that you have as a leader, you should have your visibility, you should be interacting with the people, you should show yourself, and you create a team that can find the right opportunity in this difficult environment as well.
I think disruption is great because it's solving for problems. So one of the problems that I'd love to see it solve for is more sort of inclusion. If you look at a UNDP report about 2 years ago, 20% of the richest people in Pakistan, they're responsible for 50% of the income, national income, and 20% of the poorest, only 7%. So we'd love to see that disrupted.
I'd just say that if you were a CEO or a board member, please do have a healthy degree of paranoia when you look at things, because things are moving very fast. And if you're sitting back and thinking this will blow over, it probably won't. You will be blown over. So just be a little paranoid when you think about the future and what's coming up next.
I think I'd probably say, Pevastar Shajar se umeed bahar rakh. It's a bit depressing these days, but I think, as someone said, we are 23 years young. That's the majority of our population. This too shall pass. Let's stay realistic yet optimistic. Thank you.
Thank you. So I believe on that particular positive note that there is always hope. We must find within ourselves the courage to step up and perhaps not only zoom out, but rethink the reality, which means transform yourself first. And what does that transformation fundamentally mean is something that we need to do a deeper dive and an honest dive into what does it mean in terms, because our responsibility at the helm of affairs, quite frankly, in our respective organization, also impacts the livelihoods of those who are choosing to work with us as well and partner with us. So it's not within an organization, it is also the ecosystems which must collaborate, and we must work together to build a stronger nation. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. A round of applause for the esteemed panelists. Thank you.
All right, so there are a number of takeaways actually. Step back, disrupt yourself, have a healthy degree of paranoia, and talent is universally distributed, opportunity is not. Beautifully put, Adil Saab. Thank you very, very much. This was indeed a very power-packed session to end the day. So I would now request Dr. Anna Makhai, Chief Growth Officer, Martin Dow Group, to please join us on the stage for the presentation of souvenirs. I'd also request Air Chief Marshal Suhail Aman Saab to join us on the stage, former Chief of Air Staff, Pakistan Air Force, and Chief Executive Strategic Engagements, Nutshell Group. Right, so Anam, I will request you to take the first three, please. Okay, so I will announce, yes, Mr. Adil Farhat first. Mr. Ahmed Khan Bozai. लोग थोड़े हैं लेकिन हम थोड़ी सी एनर्जी ला सकते हैं अभी. Yes, and the music helps. Thank you. Naz. Right, Suhail Saab, I'd request you to please present the book to Steve. And Paul Kaiser. थोड़ी सी तालियां और. Coffee is round the corner. Ji, and our brilliant moderator Fatima. So, in trying to not have Anam present the book to you, and I somehow lost you, Javed Bhai. So sorry. So yes, Javed Ghulam Mohammed Saab. Sir Suhail, please. So while everybody gets together and gets in line for the group photo, I'd like to inform everybody that tomorrow is another power-packed session. Please be here at 8:30 a.m. We will start at 9 sharp. तो सुबह प्लीज़ आइएगा अच्छा सा नाश्ता करके so that you can participate and enjoy the second day as well. So we'll have the group photo now. Asfar, please join us on the stage. Usman, please join us. Shahzad Saab, please join us on the stage. Dr. Shahid Saab, आइए please join us on the stage for the photo. ये आखिरी फोटो है आज की, तो we can have a nice big group. आइए सर शहजाद. Thank you Usman for inviting me. मैं भी आ रही हूँ. Step outside for tea and refreshments before you leave, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Allah Hafiz and have a good evening everyone.